2, 3. This will be the January 4th, 2017 City Council workshop meeting, followed by the regular meeting.
Bad, I know.
Yes. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Happy New Year to everyone. I'd like to call to order a workshop, the City Council of Satellite Beach, and I want to make sure I get the date right here. January 4th, 2017, approximately 6:30 p.m. And it's a workshop for interviewing applicants for boards. This is painless. I guarantee you it'll be as fast as you can get done up there. We won't ask you too many. If you would, when we call you up, please just tell us a little bit about yourself and why you would like to be on the particular boards. One thing before we get going, I'm sure, I don't know if you got a phone call, a few of the boards that people put down as their #1 choice are going through some changes. And so until that, we can't appoint until after next month, I believe, when those changes occur. So I know a lot of you picked a lot of different ones, and we'll try to get everybody placed on a board. Okay. At this time, Kathleen?
Yes,
please, if you would just come up here, sit, and
Turn one of those microphones down so you get picked up on the recording device.
Very exciting. Okay, I'm ready.
She's wrecking the place already.
you're on.
Okay, so I'm Kathleen Cleary. I moved to Satellite 11 years ago. I signed up for the rec board, but I'd be happy to work on any board. I play tennis at DeSoto, and I love it. I mean, I'm just so thrilled with how much Satellite has to offer. My daughter worked for PAL. She was a volunteer at PAL for like 7 years. She worked at the dog park. My son went to Satellite and ran cross country. I just love the city so much, and I was hoping I could give something back because they offer me so many great things.
Great, thank you very much. And you picked recreation as #1.
Yeah.
Great. And then Sampson Island Working Board,
Oh,
beautification, and
I forget,
sustainability.
but yes.
Okay, great. Questions from Steve? You want to start? Any questions?
I would just say, going with that, I saw rec board, and I understand, obviously, you play tennis and do those type of things. I don't know what else like about the Sampson Island Working Board. That one's partial to me. I love that board. They are a lot of fun, but a lot of times they're spending a lot of time going to Sampson's Island on certain days, and they clean trails and picnic and have a good time while they're out there. And then the beautification board. Again, if I see you put recreation board first, Sampson Island second, beautification board, that's a good order for you, or would you prefer something better than other, or?
No, I really, I just want to give something back because I just take so much from the city. I'd like to give something back.
Okay.
Thank you. And we do have openings on those.
Okay.
Oh, do you? Oh, good.
Perfect.
First of all, Kathleen, thanks for coming out tonight and being a part of this. What do you see as a contribution you can make to the rec board?
I don't really know what they do.
Okay.
So, I've been like president of the PTA when my kids were younger, and one time I organized a whole big function in my small little subdivision in Orlando that, it was just a whole day where there was a run and a bike parade for the little kids, and, there was a baby diaper race and stuff like that. So just whatever they need, I'd be happy to do.
It's the last couple of years. It's really kind of, for lack of better words, taken off. It's doing a lot of different things. I mean,
Yeah.
when Carrie was leaving, there was a lot of things taken off, and it is now. So I mean, I think going into it, just take a look at what you can offer to it and speak up at the meetings. That'll be the biggest things.
Yes.
It's because they're always looking for new ideas. So that's all I had, Mr. Ray.
Thank you. Dominic?
Thank you for volunteering. I'll just echo Mark's comments. And I know where Sonny Kovalskill is because I went to SUNY Utica Polytech.
Oh, okay.
So, of course, I'm older than you, so it was
Probably
way
not
back.
much.
It was way back. The boards that you've picked are boards that we're not combining, so, you fall into at least the scenario of we're going to be able to probably appoint you tonight to something, so thank you very much.
Sure, of course.
Councilwoman.
I think they probably covered everything I would ask. I just want to thank you for offering up your time, and I'm sure we'll find something for you, for sure.
Thank you. And the way we do it, just to tell everybody, is there's another agenda item that's farther in our packet, which is appointment to boards. And you're more than welcome to stay through our council meeting. If you don't want to waste time sitting, we will contact you, and we will take care of this as an agenda item tonight. Okay.
I'll probably just head out then.
You got it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen.
Nice meeting you all.
Thank you very much. Michael? You're up, bud.
You guys knew it was me.
I knew exactly. You're right there. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and you've checked a lot of boards here, which looks like you're very interested in our city and helping out. So tell us a little bit about it.
Well, it's pretty much the same thing Kathleen said. It's just these recent elections really opened my eyes to how the city's run, and I lived here my whole life, so it's just to kind of give something back and really get involved. And growing up, I realized a lot of people fall into their careers, so this could lead something, or just getting involved with the community.
Great. Great. You went to high school here?
I went to Satellite.
Nice.
You got
Stinger.
three satellite graduates up here.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Some did better than others.
Yes.
Oh, I know all.
I graduated the same time they did, by the way.
Everybody did better than me.
Yeah, real quick, you checked quite a few boards, which some of them, as I said before, are not going to be available tonight because of the change we're going through.
Right.
Okay? So to let you know there. You had beautification, Board of Adjustment Code. Does any of these stand out to you more than anything else that you would like to help us with?
Just pretty much where you guys thought somebody getting started would fit in more. And,
Great.
Beautification meets on a Friday morning at 9 o'clock. Is that a job?
I could do that.
You could do that?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you have interests in gardening or plants or edibles or anything? Like, do you care about getting your hands dirty? And
I gave up on edibles
Okay.
after the tomato hormones. So they destroyed
You gotta pick them off.
everything.
That's the only way you can do it. You just pick them off and squish them, and it's brutal, because I just throw them at my neighbor's yard.
Dominic?
Kill their tomatoes. No, Michael, thank you very much for, coming and volunteering, and we'll look at what you have here. Several of the things that you have selected, are probably going to be a combined scenario that we're looking at probably next month. But, the rec board, beautification board, those are still available positions. So, we'll see if we can slot you into something that you can start out at. And at some point in time, maybe in the future, if you want to change to something else, those options are also available too.
Right. Thank you.
I would say, thank you for coming forward and wanting to give some time back. And sometimes I think it's great when you have somebody who just says, look, put me somewhere. I think you will find, as I found out, as we become assigned to boards, that there's a lot more to that than probably the name tells you. Just like the beautification board or Samsonite board, they do so much more that you probably just don't realize. And it is kind of fun to start and learn. I was, obviously you don't have to do this forever. I mean, you can do this and take what you learn from that, and you'll probably learn a little bit about some of the other boards at the same time. So it gives you an opportunity later on down the road to say, hey, I'd like to try something different. But again, I really appreciate people who want to come out and donate some of their time to get started in it. And especially if someone like you who says, look, I just want to give back, put me anywhere, I'll swing it from there. And I applaud you for that. That is really great to have somebody who says, I just want to get into it. So thank you for that.
Awesome, thanks.
Thanks. Mark?
Michael, just going to echo Dominic's comments and Steve's comments. I really I like the way you filled this thing out. I've lived here my entire life, and I want to help serve the community in any way. and helping support, that sort of thing. It's really kind of neat that you'd say that, because we're all volunteers too, and that's how all of us got started with this, is we volunteered at some level. So whether it leads someplace in your life/career, who knows, but we appreciate you diving into this, because we don't get a lot of people your age volunteering, and that's really cool to see. So thank you for coming out. We've got to find someplace to plug you in.
Definitely.
Okay?
And even the, Carrie, she was my first boss. I worked at the dog park for about a year.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much, and again, I appreciate you coming, and it's an agenda item later on.
All right,
Okay,
cool.
thank you.
Stick around for the rest of
Please,
the
okay.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much. Richard? Other than the University of Florida, do you even want to start? Okay. First, thank you very much for applying. I see you picked one board, Board of Adjustments.
Yes.
That is a board that is open. So that's good. And tell us a little bit about yourself and why you picked that board in particular.
My name is Richard Kelly Height, and I go by Kelly. But, got to fill everything out with my legal name. But I've lived in Satellite for 32 years, and I would like to, help keep it a nice place to live. I've got friends that, kind of getting fed up with the traffic, the building, and that kind of thing, so I can't complain if I don't try to help do something about it. It's, I remember when you could drive down A1A and see the ocean. All now you see is condos. And, we just seem to keep building these high-density buildings around here. There's no single-family homes being built. But anyway, that's, I worked for General Electric for 20 years, and I worked for Harris Corporation for 22 years, and I've been retired for 10. So.
Like to start?
I don't have anything. I do, again, I appreciate coming out. I think it's always great when, especially when someone's retired, because then you have nothing but time, so to speak, and can do what you want. I think it's a great place to be. I appreciate you coming out for the Board of Adjustment. I'm sure many of the residents here understand where you're coming from, and I think you're right. I think you make a very good point that, you can't sit back and complain about the way things are going if you're not willing to at least take part.
Yes.
And again, I thank you for acknowledging that you're right. You need to be part of the solution and not just complaining about the problem. Not so many people always understand that point. So that's really I just appreciate you coming out there and thinking about that.
Yeah, like I served at Harris on lots of committees and boards, and you got to be able to see all sides of the issues.
Right.
Mark?
Kelly, have you had a chance to attend any of the Board of Adjustment meetings, or familiar with the committee or anything like that?
No, not at all.
Okay. Because it is a quasi-judicial board.
Yes.
That requires some fairly strict application of guidelines to different things that will be brought before you. Are you okay with that kind of thing? If the code says that's what it is?
That's what it is.
Okay.
I mean, you got to play by the rules.
Okay. True. But go ahead.
One question for you, just to make sure you realize that this is a board that you have to file a financial disclosure.
I understand.
Okay, that's perfect. I just want to make sure you have that. Dominic?
No, that was, what Mark said is what I was going to bring up. It is a quasi-judicial board. It's kind of like that board is the judge and jury over whatever is being brought before you.
Yes.
And council does not even get involved in anything that particular board does, the same way that the code enforcement board are their own separate boards. Whatever they decide is what the decision is. So, but again, thank you very much for coming and wanting to volunteer, because we're all volunteers, and it's a great city, and that's why we're here.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming and offering your time, and I think it's wonderful. I don't really have any questions for you.
Okay,
so.
thank you. Thank you, Richard. Again, you know how the program works, we'll appoint tonight.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much, appreciate it. Peter, thank you. Thank you for coming. I know some of you, or used to know some of your cohorts there. I knew the B very well. I was with them the other night.
Oh, great.
And I know quite a few people that work over there, and I grew up on your street.
Yeah, I knew that actually
Yeah.
from the
So-
previous meeting.
Anyway, thank you for coming. Please.
Sure. My name is Peter Jessic. Live here in Satellite for 4 years now. Great community. My family loves it. My kids go to Surfside. And, you know, there's a lot of potential growth that's going to occur in Brevard County over the next couple decades. Satellite Beach is pretty well filled out, but there's going to be additional growth, and I'm just interested in making sure that growth is done to the best that it can be done. So as an architect, I've spent many years designing buildings, involved in communities, planning, and so I have a lot of experience in it, and I understand the language of all the codes and zoning and all that. So being interested in wanting to make this continue to be a great place for my kids to grow up and for the rest of the people of Satellite Beach, is, you know, that's my interest in the planning and zoning board.
Again, I'm getting these mixed up. Planning and zoning is one of the ones.
Planning and
where-
zoning and comprehensive plan
Comprehensive
are
plan,
probably going to be
Yeah.
joined as one board.
Here, it's going to take us a month because we
Yeah,
have to
sure.
go through the ordinance process, so I just want to make sure. And you realize it's financial disclosure too, is that, make sure everybody's comfortable? Okay. Mindy, would you like to ask any questions?
I'm just curious from like your architectural standpoint, like what your vision is for Satellite with the remaining space that we have. What would your vision be for the city, like for the 100 acres and that type of a thing?
Yeah, so that's one area where I'm interested to see how things start to develop. I know there's been some discussion, there was a meeting about asking for suggestions about what can be done there. So, you know, I would be interested in exploring some of the options that are there, and how you go about planning that area out.
Okay, so just, well, as from a residential standpoint, would you want to see multi-use buildings or single-family homes growing, or?
Well, so I'm typically a proponent of a multi-use type development, but it requires some investigation to know if that's truly appropriate for that area.
Okay, I was just curious.
Thank you very much, Peter, for stepping up and volunteering. The boards, until we figure out what we're doing with those two boards, the other one that you looked at was the CRA Advisory Board. Is that board totally full right now, Lenore?
It is.
Because I don't see any
Yeah,
information.
the only, no, well, it's not, the
The
boards,
only ones that are
current
available
boards
we
are,
have.
right, we have beautification, Board of Adjustments, Code Enforcement, P&Z,
Right.
Rec and Sustainability. Some of those are going to be available because we're going to merge them. So those are the ones where we're at.
As soon as we figure out what we're doing on
Yeah,
those
certainly.
boards, I think you would be an excellent candidate to serve on one of them.
Thank you.
However it plays out. So
Yeah.
if you'll be patient with us,
Oh, yeah, certainly.
we'll try and do it as
We'll
best
be
we
there
can.
soon. Mark?
Oh, okay. Well, here's what, I think, you know, Peter, we need to get him plugged in someplace. And so I know we can't really discuss this now, it has to be discussed at the meeting, but my question is, why couldn't we go ahead and stick him in on the Planning, Zoning, and Advisory Board as an alternate? That way he's in the mix and gets fitted in when it's done.
Let's
am I-
ask
am I-
Courtney that on, because I think we're going to discuss this.
Yeah, at the next one, but I just want to throw it out there. I just don't want to
Yeah,
lose the
sure.
man's involvement. If we can, at least he can get shifted, but he's a member of something at this
Well,
point.
I understand where you're going, but we also have to look at, we don't know what the makeup of this board is going to be at that point in time. And we also would probably extend to the people that are currently serving on both of those boards, their ability to still be interested in whatever that board is, and I would hate to appoint somebody to something
Right.
knowing that you're just going to be on it for a month and then we're going to take you off. I don't think that's fair to Peter.
Okay, well, let me follow up with this then, because Frank read everything off. Peter, is there any place else that we could, for lack of better words, put you, that you'd be acceptable with? Based on the scenario, what Dom said, there may be, all the slots may be full. Is there someplace?
I'd want to consider that afterwards.
Okay, that's cool. I just don't want to lose you, that's my...
No, understood. I mean,
And since-
honestly, because of my profession, I keep a full schedule, so, I want to be utilized where it's best.
Okay.
Thank you. One thing on this, I've had a few talks with Courtney on it, and her idea was to interview everybody again.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to talk about it, but Les, I know he picked it here, and his background, if we look at...
Fits great.
Fits perfect for that board,
Right.
so...
Yeah,
let's
I'm
just
I'm
see
just
how
throwing it
goes.
out there, guys.
Okay, yep. Okay, any other questions?
Nope.
Okay, Peter, I promise you we'll get back to you.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Any further business? Hearing none, meeting's adjourned. Start at 7. Good evening, everyone. Happy New Year. I'd like to call to order a regular city council meeting, the Satellite Beach, January 4th, 2017, approximately 7:05. Please join Councilman Osmer for a moment of silence and the pledge.
Everybody stand for a moment of silence, please. Thank you. And the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, Chief, I think we have a special presentation to make. You guys are up.
Come on up. I would like to take the opportunity real quick to introduce you to a young man that has touched the hearts of our police officers and firefighters here in the city. Ricky Marler, dude, for the last year, Ricky has been battling and courageously battling non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And throughout this year, every time I see Ricky and Eric Tippins, the community medic, police officers stop by, the thing about Ricky is that he's always got a smile on his face. Talking with Ricky, he made the indication, Jeff, please don't get upset, but he wants to be a firefighter. And and you know what? We said, you know what? There's an opportunity to do that. So tonight what I would like to do is I'm going to swear Ricky in as an honorary Satellite Beach firefighter for the city of Satellite Beach. Ricky, you ready to do this? Stand right here, buddy. Raise your right hand. That one, yeah. Okay. And repeat after me. You ready? Close enough. I, Ricky Marler, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States. Defend the Constitution of the United States. I know it's good. The state of Florida and the ordinances of the city of Satellite Beach. Made better than I did. That I will always be kind to others, and I will help those in need, and I will faithfully discharge my duties as an honorary firefighter, discharge my duties as an honorary firefighter with the city of Satellite Beach, Florida. Welcome to the family, brother. Ricky, your first day of duty is Sunday, January the 8th at 8 a.m. You are to report to duty as a firefighter for Satellite Beach. And that marks what day? 1 year. 1 year, dude. And I don't want you to get a big head here, but it says Chief Marlowe on it, and I don't want you to get any ideas. Ricky, good job. Thank you for being an encouragement to others, and welcome to the family.
Ricky, and how old are you? 8. That's awesome. Congratulations. Well, you're fighting hard, little dude. You're fighting hard.
That's great. Yeah, that's great. Nice, great job, Ricky, and see you Sunday morning. Thank you. The fire department, thank you, guys. Appreciate all your hard work. Moving on to agenda item 3, we have a proclamation. Let me tell you a little bit about this first. It started, I got an email about the Mayor's Challenge for Fitness. So I knew that we had someone new on council and a member of our city staff, Julie, who would take this and really run with it, not the mayor. And so they have taken it, and if you look on Facebook and see it, they have a whole couple months planned out of great activities. So the proclamation, I'm going to ask Councilman Gibson to read it.
Well, just a quick, I guess a short summary of what we're doing is it's called the Mayor's Fitness Challenge, and there's 9 cities in the county of Brevard that the mayors have stepped up and said that we're going to compete and see which city can log the most active minutes. So Palm Bay is an example, we're an example, Cocoa Beach, Indian Harbor Beach have all said that we want to try to get our residents active, just getting up and getting fit. This doesn't mean you have to run a half marathon or do a triathlon. It's just simply getting out and walking your dog or getting on the treadmill or playing tennis or football. And all these minutes, if you sign up, which you can do online, and we have some stuff that's on Facebook, and there'll be some flyers at the recreation center that you can get the information on. And we'll log our minutes every week, and whichever city has the most minutes logged just kind of wins the bragging rights of being the most active city and the healthiest. I think we already are. So, and right now, currently, we have the same number of people logged as Palm Bay. Palm Bay has about 110,000 people, and we have 10,000. So I think we're doing pretty good so far. So without further ado, I promise try not to butcher this too bad. Can you hear me this time? Okay. All right, so this is my first time, so bear with me. Whereas the City of Satellite Beach supports policies that focus on healthy weight, health and wellness, and healthier lifestyles in all communities, and whereas the Florida Department of Health has launched a healthy weight campaign known as Healthiest Weight Florida, a public-private collaboration to help Florida's children and adults make informed, consistent choices about healthy eating and active living. This program has been embraced by individuals and businesses in many cities, counties, and communities. And whereas the Florida Department of Health has launched the 2017 Healthy Weight Community Champion Recognition Program, try to say that fast again, that will recognize local governments and active municipalities, meaning cities, towns, and villages, and counties that implement policies to help people become more physically active and improve nutrition. Best practice policies implemented by communities will be recognized on January 13th, 2017. And whereas poor nutritional choices and a lack of physical activity are linked to overweight and obesity, which increases the risk of diabetes, cancer, heart disease, liver disease, hypertension, and other health conditions. And whereas the City of Satellite Beach officials believe there are important long-term community benefits to be gained by encouraging healthy lifestyles, including a decrease in overweight and obesity in Florida's adults and children, and the associated negative health-related impacts. We're almost done, guys. And whereas community partners can work together to ensure that there are safe places for residents to be active, such as parks, ball fields, pools, gyms, and recreation centers, which we have the best. And whereas access to healthy foods has a direct impact on the overall health of our community in planning for fresh food, open space, sidewalks, and parks should be a priority. Now therefore, I, Melinda Gibson, council member of the City of Satellite Beach, Brevard County, Florida, do hereby proclaim January 13th, 2017 as Healthiest Weight Florida Day. Do I read the rest of it? Okay. I encourage and challenge all businesses, students, parents, and all residents to participate in the Healthiest Weight Florida campaign to foster healthy weight and improve overall health, improve job and school performance, and decrease work and school absenteeism. And do I read the bottom part too?
No, no, we're not.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mindy, very much. This time, we'll move on to agenda item 4, which is citizens' comments. This is for non-agenda items. So anything that's not on our agenda and you'd like to speak, the floor is now open.
Good evening, Council. Ronald Jurgudis, resident of Satellite Beach. Congratulations on being elected, Mr. Mayor, too. Just want to bring forward several items of concern that were brought up the last time I was here. I haven't followed up with the city manager, but I will assume that things are going in action. However, I have not seen it in the budgets. I brought up ADA compliancy for access to the beaches. Specifically, I talked about a relative with MS who rented a motorized vehicle that was able to access the sidewalks to get to Pelican Park, and then had a lot of difficulty related to accessing the beach and utilizing the motorized vehicle. I was told that there was going to be additional research, and I'm assuming that it's going to be ongoing. So my question tonight is whether that research is ongoing.
Let me answer now.
Yeah, please.
Yes, we've actually looked into several possibilities for that. One of the ones that we're favoring is it's like a mat that you lay on the beach, and I'm assuming that the issue is from the ramp to the beach.
No.
You're talking about the actual ramp?
I was talking about the actual ramp to take the turns down the corners that I assisted this relative to access.
Yeah, we all have issues with that. I've had issues with that with one of my friends, but, you know, that would be rebuilding that entire access, and that's just not in the works right now. We are working on the providing better access from the end of the ramp to the actual water. So that is something that we're looking into very strongly. But to rebuild that access is a pretty big ordeal. We would have to get it permitted and go through a whole engineering process that would have to be a directive from council to let us do that.
Thank you. Alan, are they ADD right now?
And they are ADA accessible now.
Approved,
Yes,
okay.
they do meet standard now.
Thank you.
Now, I was pretty specific at the meeting, and I know my time's going to be cut off right now. I was very specific, in fact. That is an important issue. And now I hear the brush around the mats. And we have a CRA that can fund those monies. My family's coming down, actually, and I'm going to say this, they're coming down in March. I'm kind of mesmerized by the fact that it's not been addressed. In fact, there have been other issues taken care of that cost money to taxpayers following up on certain idiosyncrasies. And yet we have not addressed this. And I hate to ruin the enthusiasm of this meeting tonight because of this. So I will back off and hope and pray that this issue is resolved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, if I could just comment
Yes,
real quick.
we are in compliance, correct, Al?
Well,
Thank you.
this is what we looked at, is that the turns for that access are difficult. And so, but it still meets compliance. So while it's not perfect, it's adequate. So the question is, do you want to spend money on tearing up something that's adequate right now and redoing it? Or do you want to wait until it's time to replace it and then redo it differently? So that would be the question that we would bring to you. And then the second piece is that we have had numerous people ask for accessibility from the ramp to the water, which is something we can do very inexpensively, something we don't have right now, and something that Cocoa Beach is doing as well, and we're trying to see if we can partner with them to get a better cost. So, you know, that's up to council, and we can bring that as an agenda item. That's something that you want to do, but as from a standpoint of Public Works, you know, we just don't see the need to tear up something that's adequate to replace it now. We'd rather wait until it gets to be deteriorated before we do that.
Let me ask this question, Al. To change, seems like where it makes its turn is one of the big issues.
The turns are the issues, yes.
Okay. To change the turn in it, how much are you allowed to change without having to be re-permitted for that whole facility?
There are two standards for the wheelchair access in that type situation. There is the 36-inch, which Pelican meets, and it does have handles on it so that folks with a standard wheelchair can help themselves going down the ramp, rather than have somebody having to wheel down. They can actually hold on to the rails and walk themselves down the ramp. That 36-inch requires a 60-inch turnaround radius, and we do exceed that 60-inch for the turnaround. The ramp at Hightower is 48 inches wide. It was built later, and it also meets compliance in the turn area. So if you have a non-standard wheelchair and you want to access the beach, we, unlike other cities, have two accesses available to handicapped folks. One at Hightower, which is a little wider, and then the one at Pelican, which was the original one that we built, which met the minimum standards.
Do we not have a ramp at Grant also that's available?
No, that ramp at Grant is not ADA accessible. It's built for emergency vehicles only.
Right, yeah, that's not ADA. I mean, you could use
I
it
mean,
for ADA.
that would be, I mean, if we're going to alter something to make it ADA accessible, that seems to be a very logical place. It's straight in.
The problem with that is you have, to make it ADA, you have to go out so far level, then you can go down, and then you have to have a level area after 30 feet, then you go down again, which would actually put the ramp halfway to the water to meet compliance, and any small storm, you'd lose half the ramp.
Couldn't we do it as a 90-degree
Not
parallel with the dune?
because of the rock situation there at the, we have the rock situation there, we also have the outfall that's there, that's buried. So in order to do that, it would be very, very difficult.
Okay.
So that's why when we said that we'd have to engineer it and redo the whole thing, that's what we were talking about. So we weren't trying to brush anybody off. What I was trying to give the answer is that we looked into it, that is the answer. But to also accommodate ADA access additionally and enhance it, we're also looking at this other item.
Okay, so it's not just a function of, at the turns, changing it slightly.
No, I went down, I looked at the accessibility code. I went down and measured it myself to make sure that we were in compliance, and we are. The handrails are at like 32 inches, the sidewalls are at 36 inches where the wheels would protrude off the wheelchair. And that's what I'm saying is a standard wheelchair. Now, for beach accessible wheelchairs, it's a little different because as we know, those tires are a little wider, and so they can access the beach without getting stuck in the sand. So they're non-standard.
And that's the other thing too, is there's different accessibility preferences too. So if there's a handicapped person that's by themselves, the 36-inch is preferable because they have the ability to hold on to the handrails and get down on their own. But if you have a person that has the wider chairs that don't have that capability, then you'd rather have a wider, ramp because you have somebody pushing you and you get the turns better especially with the beach wheelchairs. So we have both in the city. We have one at Hightower and one over at Pelican.
So if we change the one that's at Pelican and made it wider, it wouldn't be compliant for people that are in wheelchairs that can get themselves down there.
Well, it would be in compliance.
Yeah, it would be in
but they wouldn't
compliance,
have the
but they
ability
wouldn't
to
be
lock
able to-
themselves down,
Yeah,
no.
so,
I mean,
We have a scenario where they can use that type of facility for that wheelchair. If we made it wider, they wouldn't be able to do that. If they go to Hightower and
They
use
could,
the
but
one
it'd be
there,
harder.
they can use the one there that's wider for the wider wheelchairs.
Right, and when we talk about handicap, there's also people that aren't in wheelchairs that are handicapped, that find it easier to be able to walk down the access, holding onto the rails. So it makes it easier for those folks too.
When you do a rebuild or redesign, even if it's just, is there a percent that you can do without re-permitting? Okay.
Not on the dunes.
No.
I have a quick question. Do we have don't we have a beach rental chair that we have through the fire department for people that are handicapped?
It's actually not rental.
Well, that
We just allow them to use it. yeah.
Does that make it down the corners?
So the answer to the question is
Ma'am, please sit down.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I think. So to answer your question, the answer is yes. There was a beach wheelchair that was donated by the Lions Club for us. And I'm going to be frank with you, in most cases, it's okay. But most cases, we have used it out, and we've had people that may have been a little bit larger person, and I will admit that it's a little bit difficult for them, but that's only in certain cases. The chair does make the turns and stuff, but if it's a heavy person and they've got to do a little, finagling around, then it becomes difficult.
But that's only a Pelican.
Right, that's only a Pelican.
And I've used it personally for a child, and I've seen, it is, even then, it's still, you have to maneuver your way around the corners, but we were able to get down without an issue, so.
I'm just wondering if this would be an option for their family, friends, is it not something that worked for them?
Well, just for the point, she did show me a picture of what they rented, and it's very similar. So.
Thank you very much. At this time, citizens' comments are still open for non-agenda items. Thank you, Steph.
Larry Whitney, 499 Glenwood. This is just an observation. It just occurred to me, as many of you know, I walk my dogs a lot, and I saw a house with a beautification sign, so my assumption is the beautification group, committee, gave them that sign. I would imagine that's correct. And then I started thinking about the Sustainability Board and their requirements. And I wonder if the Beautification Board is talking to the Sustainability Board, and we may have to redefine what beauty is, because the house was beautiful, but it had a lot of grass, and I didn't see any way that it's being cut back. So I was wondering if we're in silo thinking, and some of that could,
They actually
we have some cross-pollination
two
about things
awards
like
now.
that.
They have their normal award, which is what Mr. Whitney was talking about, but then they also have the Native Lawn Award. So they're trying to mesh, but they haven't totally meshed.
Great. Thank you, Larry. Public comment still open. Hearing none, close the citizens' comment. Come back to city council comment. Councilman Gibson, would you want to start?
I just want to thank everyone for allowing me to serve on our council, and I am very appreciative and humbled, and I'm glad to be here, and I will do my best to do what's right for our city. Thank you. That's really all I have to say.
Well, Happy New Year, everybody. We haven't had a meeting since the beginning of December, and a lot of stuff happened in December. I attended the Florida League of Cities Legislative Conference, which was the 8th and 9th of December. And on the 10th of December, I was out front here planting, along with Councilman Osmer and our City Manager Courtney Barker, all the plants that are adjacent to the pond out there were put in that day. And it was an outstanding event. It had a great participation, and we've got a lot of new native plants that are out there. And the Sustainability Board is doing a great job trying to keep us where we need to be as far as being a sustainable community. I also attended the Space Coast League of Cities meeting on the 12th, and on the 15th, the employee Christmas party, which was well-attended and good event. That's all I have.
Thank you. Mark?
I have nothing, Mr. Mayor.
I would just like to say some comments that I've got over the holiday season. We had a lot of people that were not residents of City Satellite Beach going through our city to look at Christmas lights. I had many comments, a lot of positive comments. I know the one street up there by DeSoto that they talked about. I talked to many people that were here for the Jingle Bell Run who also commented on that. I just thought that is kind of nice to know that there are people from Cocoa, there were people from Cocoa Beach, and I talked to somebody from Rockledge that they all brought their families and kids to Satellite Beach to ride around our neighborhoods to look at Christmas lights. So I think it's nice they comment on our community and our residents and the atmosphere they feel when they're in Satellite Beach. And that's just, a hallmark, and that's just one of the times of the season where it really shows. So all those who participated and went their merry way with that, it was well looked at by people outside our community. So I thought that was very nice. Got a lot of positive comments.
Thank you. Also, I attended the planning out front of City Hall here, and thank you to Keep of Our Beautiful, the surf riders, everybody. Nick, you're here, organized it. Great job. Great day together, a lot of hard work put in. I think it's going to look great when it grows in. So thank everybody for that.
Yeah, I forgot you were there, sorry.
That's fine. Any other council comments? Hearing none, I'll move on to City Manager's report. Courtney?
Thank you, Mayor. We wanted you to save the date for the Locals Only Surf Contest, which will be at Pelican Beach Park, February 10th through the 12th. And then again, if you haven't registered for Mayor's Fitness Challenge, please do. We do have a lot of events. We should have the calendar up on the website by next week. We're trying to finalize that in the next week. And we also have, in the event plan, just to give you kind of an idea of what we're looking at, is we have CrossFit events, Zumba events, yoga, Mayor's Walk, Florida Today's editor, Bob Caporti, is doing a walk from Pelican Beach Park to Hightower. We have runs, 5Ks. We're partnering with Run for Cruise with Lawn Doggers, and we're adding bounce houses to try to make that a little bit more family-friendly. We have a field day event we're planning as a kickoff event. So it's a pretty big event that we're hoping, and considering our registration so far with Satellite Beach, I think we're in the running to probably win this competition. So, we also, if you haven't registered, the January 6th deadline is coming soon. So if you don't register before then, you won't be a part of the Mayor's Fitness Challenge registration. You can still participate in events, of course, but you won't be able to be counted towards the competition. We have received a thank you note from Bud Mayer for services from the fire department. And we also received a thank you note from South Beach Youth Football and Cheer Association for our support over the season. We received a letter of commendation for a school guard, crossing guard, Brianna Dragons, assistant of a child who rode her bike into a canal. And you remember those bats that we put on your agenda a little while ago? Well, we now have the workshop that you requested scheduled for January 7th at 10 a.m. at the library. So if you want to learn more about bats and bat houses and how to construct them and the benefits of bats in the community, you can attend that workshop. We have a lagoon-friendly lawn contractor class coming up on January 10th at 6 p.m. So if you know of a lagoon or a lawn contractor that either maintains or does landscaping that would like to get certified by our city program, you can ask them to come to our website or Keep Brevard Beautiful's website and register for that class and get certified. I also wanted to let you know that we do have, I was notified of some possible security changes to our local schools in terms of fencing. And given Surfside's, we've done quite a bit of investment of money in that playground. So if it's going to get fenced in, we obviously have a concern with that. So I requested for the school board the plans for those security fences. And depending on what those plans are, we may have that on your agenda for the 18th. So I just want to let you know, in case you get any phone calls, that I'm stirring up that pot. And then we are having our Citizens Oversight Committee meetings with the lagoon now. So by the next meeting, we should have our first round of taxes be coming in, and we'll be looking at city projects. And so I'll give you an update on how that's going once we get there. But everything seems to be moving along, and we're now also discussing how we're going to communicate with the public in terms of the projects that the lagoon taxes is working on. So, and that's it.
Thank you very much. Questions from council?
I'd just like to add one comment. You mentioned Bob Gavardi from Florida today doing his walk here. I attended the very first one that he did at Pelican. And as you know, it was widely popular, and he went to a lot of different places out of the port, out by the zoo, stuff like that. If you do see him on Facebook, I think almost at least one day a week, he is at Hightower, and he's taking pictures of the beach and the sunrise, and I know Satellite Beach is one of his favorites, and he talks about it all the time. And I've met a lot of our Satellite Beach citizens on those walks. I think it's great. One, because I know Dana Bickley was there. She's there quite often, matter of fact. But it's another opportunity for residents. Like I said, I try to attend those whenever I can. It's nice that residents can, again, talk to council members. You can talk to the Florida Today. You can talk to people from the property appraiser's office.
County Commission.
County Commission. I mean, there's a lot of those people there that gives you that access that you may not get trying to get into their office and stuff. So I would just highly recommend that. Like I said, when he does that here in Satellite Beach, he's really great about that. Jeff Kyle, the president, is there. So it's a good group. I encourage everybody, if you get an opportunity, to do that. Again, great place. Like I said, I've seen some of the folks out here. We've done that walk together, and it is great. That's all.
Thank you very much. Any further comments for city manager? Okay, hearing none. Moving on to agenda item 7. Discuss, take action on the fire department bonfire permit program. Chief.
Well, for the reason why most people are here, I want to talk about the recreational bonfire permit program that's done through the city, and to basically give an overview and talk about some of the concerns and stuff that have popped up, and then to bring this back to council for some policy direction for staff. So let me just give you a little bit of background here. At the end of the day, the challenge that we run into is that, we've issued bonfire permits, and it's been in the city for a long time, and we've just had some issues that pop up, and we want to bring it back to council from a policy direction and determine whether or not needs some adjustments to the program. Let me give you a little bit of historical background. First of all, recreational bonfires have been part of the culture of Satellite Beach for decades. As early as, for me and back research, I've been here 24 years, and permits have been issued for the 24 years that I've been employed here. And then I go back and look in city code, and as early as 1976, the city adopted a code that specifically said and called for the permitting, allowing a recreational fires, campfires, ceremonial fires, and all of these outdoor burnings would be subject to permit by the fire department. And so as early as 1976, we know that there was some discussion about having beach fires in the city just based off the language that is there. So when we look at this and kind of go through, we talk about the permitting process, and let me explain to you how this is managed today. Over the years, even when I first came here, it was very done, phone calls, have somebody come in, they fill out a handwritten permit, and for years, the permit was issued for free. I believe it was in 2012-ish, somewhere around there, that we decided that for that permitting process, that we were going to implement a $15 fee, and that $15 fee was really designed to cover staff costs for the permitting process because there was staff time involved in it. Naturally, as things progress, bonfires in the city is a widely popular item. And when bonfire season would start in Satellite Beach, you would have a line on November the 1st out the parking lot, 20 people in line, so they can come into the fire department when Paula was there, waiting for Paula, so that they can go in and register and reserve their spot. So that particular year, we issued 700 some odd permits that were done by paper. We decided, let's go ahead and automate the process. So the current process today, it's 100% online. The user establishes a full account with their information and stuff that's in there. When the user sets up their account, they are required to acknowledge all the rules and regulations related to the beach bonfire permit. And they acknowledge it, it's basically built into the system, so that's your first knowledge that the rules exist. They have another place where they're faced with the rules, is even when they go to the web page, and every time somebody logs in for them to get a permit after they've established their account, that front page has all the rules listed there. They select their date and their location, they pay their $15 fee, and starting last year, we used to do it is that you can do it, pay for it, and then come in for the permit. We realized that that was probably an unnecessary step, and so now the permit is emailed to that particular individual. So when we do this, there is at least 3 places where the rules and the regulations are addressed and is acknowledged by the permit holder. And because it is so widely known, we are very strict on following the rules. Let's talk about our permitted sites that we have, and these sites most of these sites have been there for dawn of ages other than Hightower, but we have Hightower Beach that has 3 permitted sites that are there, Pelican Beach with 4 sites, and then Michael Crotty Park with 3 sites that are there. Now, I call them city parks only because that's what we designate them at the city. As you can see, Michael Crotty Park does not have bathrooms or any other facilities, it's just a parking beach access that is there. Then we have our other beach accesses that are our street accesses. One for Cassia Boulevard, which is a very small and really a walk-up site because there's not really parking that is there. DeSoto Parkway has 2 permitted for DeSoto Parkway, or allowed to be. Grant Avenue, Magellan, Park Avenue, Shell Street, and the Shell Street site has always been there, and we're going to talk about that here in just a moment, and then Volunteer Way with 1 site. For the exclusion of Hightower and then the improvement that was done at Michael Crotty Park, the remainder of the sites have always been very consistent for a very long time, and at least my employment time with the city. Now, we go back and we look at this. We also have, for permits, we have the public sites, but we also provide private, we call it, it's not public access, that all the condominiums are afforded the opportunity for them to schedule if they would like to have a bonfire on the beach, or if you are a beach resident with a beach access, they have the opportunity also. Now, those particular sites are not turned on, they are not seen by the public. If the condominium or the beach owner calls us, we have it set up and our secretary takes care of that and issues the permit for them. Why do we do that? Well, because they've got an access to the beach, but there's not public parking. So you kind of just look at how we're trying to address this. Now, let's talk about the rules here. And first of all, when I talk about these rules, these are the rules that have been in place since I've been employed with this city. You've got to be 18 years of age. Recreational fires need to be 25 feet from beach access rep, dune lines, or other structures. Now, I put an asterisk mark there because I went to go research the 25-foot number, and there's no real scientific reason. That was just a number that was just thrown on a piece of paper. There's no real basis of that. I will admit to you today, can we 100% follow that 25-foot rule? Well, yes, from a beach access ramp, but not from the dune line based off of the beach erosion right now. So the ideal in the spirit of the intent here is we just don't want somebody to have a bonfire underneath the boardwalk or to have a bonfire on top of a dune line. So it was really more of a guidance issue for us. Recreational fires, and we're very tight on this, 3 feet in diameter, no more than 2 foot high. When I look at that 3 foot diameter, that's the size of a normal fire pit that you can buy for your backyard at Lowe's. So that's the size. We don't allow people to dig pyramids. We don't allow them to do other things. You know, this is really intended to be a very small, quaint fire that is there. The permit holder also has to have extinguishing material, either a bucket of water or a shovel and sand. One or the other is one of the requirements for them to be there. This next item that's here has been an adjustment over the years, part of it done by myself here, is that you can only use commercially purchased firewood or a Duraflame type product. And let me explain it, and that's not what the rules were. We changed this about 3 years ago, and let me explain the reason why. What we learned was that some people would take, their oak logs they had in their backyard and they would use in their fire pit, and then they would take it down to the beach. Well, the density of that, it would take a long time for that fire log to ever burn up, and it kind of added to maybe people weren't cleaning the beach up. So we went back and I looked and researched it and realized that the United States Forestry Service and the National Park Service requires that the only type of fire logs that can be burned in a national park and a state of Florida park is one that is USDA kiln dried. And what this means is that the wood has been seasoned and dried and all the moisture taken out of the wood. This is an important aspect here because when we start talking about smoke, smoke is the product of incomplete combustion. When we are burning wood that has had the moisture removed from that, once that fire is started, it's designed to have very minimum smoke from it. So that we should not have, if you're using the right material, you should not have billowing columns of smoke going up in the air. The next thing, and this has always been there, is that, look, you cannot use pallets, Christmas trees, lumber, or anything else. And when people are being caught, and yes, people do violate the rule, they immediately get shut down. I can tell you this year that our fire marshal made Boy Scout leader cry. You're welcome. Boy Scout troop down there, they're having their fire, they've got the wrong wood. Shut them down long enough and says, put your fire out, you need to go and get the right stuff and have it there. We've had this year alone is that even though we know that it has always been a rule that you cannot burn a Christmas tree, we still have people who will try to burn their Christmas tree. We go to the extent that right after Christmas season, we contacted every permit holder to tell them what the rules are, and don't you dare bring a tree down there. Well, guess what? The other day, somebody brought a tree down there, and who was down there? The fire marshal. And guess what was done? That tree was off, and the rules were followed, and they were told. And the person realized that the permit holder knew the rules. Somebody else with his party showed up with a Christmas tree. But that got caught, Have we had somebody take pallets down there? Yes, they have. And guess what? They have been caught every time. So there will always be somebody who doesn't follow the rules, but that doesn't mean that it's not being mitigated and taken care of. So I just wanted to kind of lay this out. Now, let me kind of build on this a little bit because 2 years ago, the fire department did not actively inspect each of the sites. And I suspect because we were not doing that, there have been probably a couple years ago, people who may not have been following the rules as diligently as they should. Word spread very quickly that we're out there and we're checking their permits, we're following the rules, and what we find today is vast compliance to the rules that we have. Can the fire department shut down a site? Yes, they can, absolutely. And have they? Yes, they do. But we try to only do that when it's a gross violation. If it's something that is small, they've got a 4-foot fire, not a 3-foot fire, we're not going to be jerks to them, and say, hey, look, dude, that's just a little bit too big. But for the most part, we rarely have to shut somebody down. And I have to tell you that every time when the crews are out there doing inspection, they have an issue, everybody says, oh, I didn't realize that, and they are mitigating and taking care of their problem. Let's talk about the demographics here, because this is kind of important here. Since we did the online system, we have over 1,700 individual account holders. Now, this could be one person that set up an account and only did one fire, ever, okay? But when I go back and I look at the total data, and I look at the 1,700, and then I just do a search and look at the 32937 zip code, the vast majority of the permit holders are people from this zip code. Now, I haven't gone down and looked at the streets, are they living in Indian Harbor Beach or South Park, Sea Park, but they live in the 32937 zip code. So again, I just want to kind of lay this out as who the permit holders are. Last year, on average, 950 permits. Last year, we issued, I think it was 1,006 permits last year. That's a lot. Anecdotally, is that when the crews are down here, ask what's the number of people, 4, 5, 6 people, the usual number, overall average who participates in the beach bonfire. So that's about 6,000 interactions a year that's happening down there. And how many thought that we did 1,000 permits? I mean, that's a crazy number, And so when I look at the vast number of permits that we're having, to be quite frank with you, it's well behaved, because if you're getting 1,000 permits and everybody's breaking the rules, there would be a lot more issues than what have popped up. Yes, sir.
Chief, and bonfire season is only when?
November 1st to April 30th.
So, I mean, it's not even an entire year.
Yeah, and I went and pulled it, we issued 520 permits up to December 31st. So we'll probably be on par for about the 900 round, and that has been the base number, okay? So let's talk about the potential concerns and just kind of lay this out. So there has been some concerns, and some will say, well, beach bonfires can be dangerous and cause an uncontrolled fire. Let me just say that we have had no fires that have started because somebody's beach fire. We have had dunes catch on fire because somebody used a Chinese lantern. This year, we had somebody grass catch on fire because of their Christmas lights, but we don't have and have not had any of our beach fires that have caused an illicit fire on the dune or anything else. So that problem has not occurred. The second thing is that they talk is that there's illicit behavior that occurs at beach bonfires. I have to tell you, out of 1,000 permits, could there be a few that may not be the family oriented? Absolutely. Absolutely, just like we have in other issues, those things are going to happen. But for the most part, this is a family, community-oriented event. People don't come to Satellite Beach to party because of Satellite Beach cops. They're out there. I mean, let's just call it what it is, No, don't take offense to that. I mean, that's saying to them, everybody knows you don't go and do that here, And if you do, you're probably going to get caught. So again, out of the 1,000 permits, we don't have any real bad behavior for the most part. Those who have permits, they leave litter all over the place. In the last 2 years, talking with Public Works, Paul Fursey, who does, I believe it's Paul that does the cleanup, the beach stuff, is that problem has been virtually removed. And part of the reason why is, one, is because we changed the wood, and number two is that we keep emphasizing to those who get permits, folks, this is a privilege. This is a privilege. Because people say, wow, nobody else allows that. Well, this is what we've been doing for 50 years in Satellite Beach. But don't screw it up for others. So for the most part, everybody understands that what they have and what they're doing is a privilege. So let's kind of lay this out again. That this is a nuisance and community-generated complaints. I have to say, from my standpoint on it, our complaint level has been virtually none. We do not receive, except in a very isolated area, complaints about smoke or anything else. That is just not something that has occurred overall. Is there an isolated complaint to that? The answer is that yeah, but general overall, there has not been any challenges as it relates to that. And then I got to lay this out. If I'm averaging about 900 a year, and over the years, we're talking that we've issued tens of thousands of permits probably in 50 years. You know, it's a lot, it's a big number. And yes, we will always have, and I can never tell you 100% there won't be an issue, but for the most part, most people behave and do what they're supposed to do. So the reason we bring this up, and I just got to be frank with you, is that we've had an isolated issue where we have one particular resident who lives here who has a problem with the policy, and for us issuing bonfire permits. They live on the beach. They are at Magellan Access. They live on the south side of Magellan Access. We have listened to the concerns over a couple years. We have attempted to resolve them or answer the question, and we're still facing a challenge with it today. And so this is the reason why we're bringing this there, because on top of it is that where it's risen to is some challenges and interactions with staff, but it's also risen where there has been some interaction between permit holders and that particular resident. And so we want to bring this back to council to say, look, this is what we do. How would you like us to handle this? Let's talk about, and this is an issue over littoral rights, and so I'll let Attorney Beal speak to that particular issue, if you want to.
You can go ahead and finish yours, and then we'll talk about mine.
Okay, so we'll come back to that particular piece that is there. So this is just the policy direction and guidance from you, because what has been requested is that we only issue bonfire permits at the city parks, and so we're going to interpret that to be Hightower, Pelican, and Crotty Park. The challenge with this, and let's talk about this, we will go from 22 permitted sites down to 10. So when we look at this, there's going to be some challenges that pop up. So let's talk about the pros and cons. The pros will be this, is that from us standpoint, our staff will be able, if we just did it at the 3 city parks, our staff would be able to do the bonfire inspections very quickly. That's a pro to it. Here's the cons to this. If we reduce the sites by greater than 50%, what is really going to happen is that Satellite Beach residents, who are the majority of the people who actually get the permits, many people get 5, 6, 7 permits a year, they are going to be limited access. If we shut down and say that we're only going to do it the city parks, the Magellan, all these street access, these are the ones that are generally used by the locals. Somebody calls us up and says, hey, where's the Grant Avenue access? You're not from here, are you? And, well, look, you're probably better off going to one of the city parks. So what we're going to happen, and this is just a con, is that if we take the streets off of it, most likely what it's going to do is reduce the ability of citizens to be able to pull permits, because it just 1,000 permits in 10 sites is just isn't going to happen, especially on the popular weekends and holidays and stuff. So those are our challenges. The second piece to this is that if we limit this down to where it's only the city parks, then the challenge we're going to run to is how do we address that with the condo owners, and how do we address it with some of the beachfront owners that have accesses there. So then we would be limiting it there also, because it will be very difficult for us to regulate. So you need to either A, be a park, or all of them, or none of them, as I'm kind of looking at this. Now, I will talk about another concern that's popped up and what we've been working on is Papagalas, specifically in Shell Street. So this is that thing that happens when we do improvements. So, the improvements were done right basically April last year, the close of our season, okay? And so now it's become a very popular place, and there has been a question over parking. I have met with Papagala's owner. We've talked about it. We're looking through this. I've presented a solution to the city manager, and we are working on that aspect. I have a 2-phase approach to it, and basically it's addressing a parking issue. And so I think that part will be taken care of on that. There has been some concern specifically about Shell Street and the bathrooms being, we'll call it vandalized, but really messed up, okay? I don't know that that's directly a offshoot of bonfires because this has also happened at Hightower and Pelican and has been attributed to homeless people. So I'm not so sure that that specific issue is bonfire related, but it's certainly concerned. And when Papagalas is presented to us, we understand it, you know. So I think we have a solution for this, and that will be an ongoing monitoring piece, because I get it from their wait staff is if there's no parking because people are at the bonfire, then the servers are not making their monies in service. So I completely get that, and we're very sensitive, and we're working on a solution for that. So that's kind of my overview. I'll just take questions and then open it up for public comments, however you want to handle it.
Thank you very much. From the police activity and of people complaining or problems with bonfires, Chief,
I did some research before we came here, and we've only had 3 documented complaints in the last year of any issues with the bonfires, and 2 of those weren't even the actual fire itself. It was just there's too many people, and one person called in to say, do they have a permit? So we get very, very, very few calls or complaints that in bonfires, other than the area he talked about at Magellan Beach Access. We've had several complaints there. But outside of that location in the last year, in the last couple of years, and as far as I can remember, that we just don't have any problems.
Great, thank you.
Okay, I'll ask both of you. Chiefs, one of the things I'd like to know is whether what we're doing, what we have in place, is kind of the standard, kind of the model for communities of this type, how other communities handle this sort of thing. How is our fire procedure and all that sort of thing in compliance, or not in compliance?
Well, I'll address it from the fire side of the house.
Okay.
Okay. Mind you, as I said, people call and say, man, I can't believe you allowed this, okay? Specifically, Cocoa Beach has an ordinance that allows beach bonfires. However, they only allow same-day permitting, and when we talk to them, I don't think they issue 20 permits a year. Indian Atlantic, by policy, allows it. However, by practice, they rarely issue them. Brevard County neither allows or disallows it. We are the only city that allows it, but we highly regulate it. So that's about the best answer I can give you.
Okay.
And if somebody, well, nobody else allows it, well, that's kind of true, you know.
All right, is our regulation in where it should be for what we're doing?
In my professional opinion, the answer is yes.
Okay, Chief,
And mine is too, because I think the regulations, because if you follow the regulations, you go and you have a wonderful time and everybody enjoys it by evidence of 1,000 permits. The only time there's a problem is when they don't follow the rules. The fire department takes care of it right away, and usually the people just say, I didn't know, or I forgot, and then they fix it, and then they're fine. So it's absolutely fine.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Further questions before I open it?
A quick question. If they are violating, so the simple procedure would be just tell them to put the fire out and send them packing as maybe an option to fine them, and maybe it would deter people from making this mistake. Do we fine them at all, or is it just put your fire out and get on your way, or don't do what you're doing?
Well, we
or what
suggest
is
to them that they will be fined and cleanup costs. However, city code doesn't actually provide a mechanism to do that. But let me go back and say, though, but it's not a problem. Is when I tell you, David, I mean, he shut people down, and he stands there and he watches them pick the wood up. I mean, come on, he's a hard nose. He watches. I mean, it gets cleaned up. It's not saying, okay, you know, and walk away, and they continue doing whatever they're doing. It's taken care of right then and there.
I guess my mindset is the reason why people don't typically speed or do crime in Satellite Beach, like with the people, maybe to appease the person that's complaining about this, because it seems like the complaint makes this person thinks that these people are building huge fires and it's smoking the house out. So if we said, okay, if these people really are doing that, they're going to get fined and they're not going to be able to get a permit for X number of months or something, do you think that would be?
Actually, and we've only had to do this twice to my knowledge, is that we have revoked the account. Now, let me just say, all that means is I revoke so they just get somebody else to get the permit for them. So it becomes kind of a moot issue. But let me just say, last year, we had somebody not clean up. Alan called me. I called that person right up, and they said, oh my gosh, I am so sorry about it. And the person lived in Satellite Beach, and it was like 10 o'clock in the morning. They went down there and cleaned everything up and called me and said, I'm sorry, we got it cleaned up, okay? So again, I gotta go back. The majority follow the rules and do what they're supposed to do.
As far as that fine, I just wanted to throw in, because we did think about that, and that was a good point, and we went back and forth, but we found that really what, all the fine does is try to modify behavior. And what we found, and what the fire chief has found, is that the way to modify that behavior is say, you're never going to get a permit again, and that's way worse than, slapping them with a $25 or $50 fine or whatever. They don't want that, because the majority of the people are local people that go there and they want to keep going, and they don't want to be the one that can't get a permit.
Quick question, just to make sure. So we have a bonfire issue, Papa Gallows, you have a parking issue, more or less, and you're going to work with that, Courtney?
Yeah, we've already discussed
Okay, great.
with them.
Didn't want to leave you hanging out there, thank you, okay. Further question before I let Jim do his, Jim, are you going to do your part?
Yeah.
Okay, and then we'll bring it back for more discussion here, and then I'll open up for public comment. Jim?
And Mayor, I would recommend allowing Mr. Lunsford to speak a little longer than what
That's
we
fine.
normally do, just so, because it is his,
No problem, okay. And that'll happen when we open up for citizens' input, okay? Jim?
I was requested to look at the issue about the bonfire regulations in the context of how it was presented, and council's been provided a letter where I went through the various issues. The first issue was where the properties are located in relation to the Magellan, specifically Magellan access, beach access, and then what the situation is as far as, because one of the issues that was raised was literal rights, which is basically riparian rights that are on the ocean, and what the land ownership is, and basically there, this is the north end of Beach Street or Beach Avenue, the Paper Street, and essentially, Mr. and Mrs. Lunsford own what are basically portions of what used to be lots on Block B of Galley by the sea, and those would be the lots that would provide them with the literal rights, because Beach Street is a 50-foot right-of-way between those lots and the landward lots on the west. So I went through those issues, and also there was a survey that the building official provided based on, that was in a file that shows where these properties are, and it's Exhibit 4 in the letter that I provided, that shows the relative positions of these Block B lots in relation to the toe of the dune and the mean high water line. But that was done in 2003, so I don't know. I'm assuming that the dune line and the mean high water line have probably moved at least a little bit westward, if not because of the storms. And then went through the historical, which the fire chief hit on a little bit earlier, but I also determined in speaking with some people with the city that even before the permitting was done or imposed, that at least since the mid to late 60s there were bonfires in Satellite. This has been going on for in excess of 50 years. And then there's general principles that relate to the analysis of beachfront properties, and I went through that analysis, and there's 3 different ways for the city to, or a local government to, or the, shouldn't even put it that way, the public to obtain an interest in the Sandy Beach, and thereby prescription, dedication, and custom, and basically in conclusion there's different aspects of it, and I didn't go into any great detail from a fact standpoint unless the council wants me to, but it appears that at least there's a custom for the city and the residents of the city generally speaking, and in front of Magellan specifically, for at least 50 years, where these, recreational bonfires have occurred. So it appears, based on what I was able to find, that the city has the ability to permit this activity on the beach, and the public has a right to participate in this activity on the beach, at least as on the basis of custom from a legal perspective. The other issues, as I indicated in the letter, are, just like the fire chief indicated, are policy considerations for the council.
Thank you. Back to council. Council comments or anything before I open it up for floor? At this time, the floor is open on this agenda item. So, since you requested some extra time, I will allow you to speak first.
I would appreciate it. We'll try and keep this fairly short.
Thank you.
I did a handout to all of you. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at it. Some of this in the handout, and there are some extra copies here. Some people would like it. Dispute a little bit of what the chief said. My original complaint with the chief was after a entire lot of Christmas trees was burned on the north side of Magellan. And this is about, I guess, 3 years ago? They came. I called the complaint to the fire department, and whoever came out threatened to call the police on me when I was trying to interfere with them doing this. They hauled them all out there during the day. They burned them that night. And when I went to talk to Chief the next week about it, he said, well, he had approved it, but he expected them to have cut it up. Since that time, there is the rule in there that you can't burn Christmas trees, so there was some action taken on that. One of the other things I put in there is the rules from 2014, where a complaint by a homeowner of smoke would be enough to shut down a fire. I had a major complaint on this. There was a situation going on where a bus the size of a Greyhound came in, and they unloaded a troupe of performers, I guess, that were, I don't know if they were from a ship or from Orlando or what, and they were out throwing, they're burning batons on the beach, or they were shooting off fireworks, and the wind was blowing at about 15 knots in from the beach, and my house was filled with smoke. I called and complained about, and the diesel truck was sitting there on Magellan for more than 4 hours running. I mean, it was terribly noisy. It was a really nasty night, and the chief didn't come out. The captain who came out refused to shut it down, and he told me, and at this time, it was one of the rules, that if there's a complaint then of smoke, then it will be a cause to shut it down. He told me that just because you smell smoke doesn't mean there is smoke, and I thought it was one of the stupidest statements I ever heard, but actually, there's something to that, because smoke is, the particles are very small. They can come in through the best sealed rooms, and airtight and everything else. And the fact that, maybe there isn't smoke here, but you're going to have it 3 days from now still, because it hangs around in the air. So I cover a lot of this stuff in there. And some of my complaints, which supposedly I'm a real jerk for complaining. Take a look at the Magellan crossover and see what goes on there. The reason it's chosen as a regular place is because it's kind of back in the woods. There's parking there, and they can see the cops coming and throw their drinks overboard. From this last weekend, we had liquor bottles and beer bottles and glass overflowing the entire trash can. It's not unusual to have that kind of behavior on a weekend. It's a high school drinking hangout. Okay, back to my statements that I was going to make. Chief Hughes has portrayed me as a vociferous malcontent, And I probably am the one who complains the most, and I think I probably have the right to complain the most because of the situation. I will try to refrain from spending more time criticizing him, although I would like to say that you promised me, and gave me your word.
Sir, please, let me just direct the questions
direct
here. Thank you.
The chief gave me his word that they would take me off the list until after this was addressed, and I'm back on the list, and yeah, I've had several complaints since then. Matter of fact, the last complaint that I made, they hung up on me 3 times. When I complained that this fire was not legal, the Scott who answered the phone hung up on me 3 times. So I called the police. The police dispatched somebody out there, and apparently the dispatcher called the fire department to say what's going on, and they sent somebody out, and they closed it down because the people did not have a permit, and the fire was located right off the end of the steps, which is also an illegal situation. But I don't think I deserve that kind of treatment from our fire department. Even if I do complain, I complain because I have reason. Wood smoke is more than a nuisance, it is a severe health hazard. The particulate emissions rate per minute from one beach bonfire is equal to that from 3 average big rig diesel trucks of the secondhand smoke from 800 cigarettes. The EPA estimates that wood smoke is 12 times more carcinogenic than equal amounts of tobacco smoke and attacks our body cells up to 40 times longer than tobacco smoke. Inhaling wood smoke particulate matter increases the incidence, duration, and severity of respiratory disease, striking hardest at children, the elderly, and those with lung or heart disease. The number of deaths attributed to particulate pollution exceeds the number of deaths from major cancers like breast cancer, prostate cancer, and exceeds the deaths occurring from automobile accidents by more than 50%. For vulnerable populations, such as people with asthma, chronic respiratory disease, and those with cardiovascular disease, wood smoke is particularly harmful. Even short exposure can prove dangerous. On a personal note, my daughter, who has asthma, cut her last visit to her short because smoke was infiltrating the house, and she said she probably would never again return during fire season. So it affects people. What I am asking the council to do is to rewrite the beach bonfire rules to exclude sites in front of private residents without the written permission of the landowner. By the way, I could not find any place in Florida that allowed beach fires in front of private residences that were permitted by the city. Most of them expressly prohibited, including Melbourne and Cocoa Beach. Walton County, for instance, and maybe they're really strict because I'm not sure if this is in Walton County, but the Sandestin Hill was the entire decking was burned down by a beach bonfire, costing them millions of dollars in damage. But anyhow, they have this rule that says you have to have written permission, and they have a $500 fine or as much as 6 months in jail for breaking the rules. Maybe a little excessive, but other people consider it a problem. If you watch people sitting by a fire, you will notice they move away from where the smoke is flowing and sit on the opposite side of the fire. Beach residents don't have the option to reposition their homes away from the smoke. Additional changes should be put in that ban fires when offshore winds are in excess of something like 10 miles per hour, which also most places like Melbourne Beach Melbourne or Cocoa Beach only issues them the day of, depending on the weather conditions. I also think they should consider limiting it to Brevard County residents. Perhaps that's not much of a problem, but that's also something that Cocoa Beach does. Perhaps with fewer sites to patrol and fewer people negatively affected, the demands of the fire department, which he was mentioned, would be a lot less, and it would be more in line with their capabilities. While they go out and patrol, they do this about once a night, as best I can tell. The incident where I was hung up on 3 times by Scott over there when he answered the phone was because I reported this, and he said, "We've already been out to check it, and it's fine." Well, they came out to check it before they lit the fire. These fires can go on from 6 till midnight. This is a neighborhood. Chief Hughes brought up the possible negative impacts on the general fund of $9,000. I believe this is an overestimation, as the city park sites are sold more often than most of the others. However, simply raising the permit fee to $25 or $30, which is in line with what other communities charge, $30 is what they charge at Cocoa Beach, would make this basically revenue neutral. Consider that each pound of wood burned costs the entire community $2 in increased medical costs and lost working days. That is equivalent to $40 for an average fire. It's amazing to me that a city which is promoting healthy living and is preparing to spend $30,000 to $50,000 a year to hire an environmental manager should care so little about negatively impacting the health and wellness of its residents. One would expect our public guardians to be more interested in protecting the community from smoke and other hazardous pollutants. And Chief Pearson knows that I have been to talk to him and one of his lieutenants.
Direct it to here, please. Thank you. That's all right.
Several times. I don't talk to them about the fires because they don't enforce the fires. I talk to them about the kind of behavior that we put up with on a regular basis, particularly on nights when there are fires, with drinking, loud noises. When these people get out or get done with their fires, and if they shut them down at midnight, which over the weekend they didn't, then these people get out in the parking lot or the street, the parking area on Magellan, and they yell at one another because they've been drinking for 3 or 4 hours, and they make a lot of noise and honk their horns, start up their cars, and generally you go out the next day and there are cans and bottles all over the place. We pick that stuff up all the time. The city doesn't come out and pick up stuff that's thrown over the side. One of these instances that the chief pointed out where they shut down a fire because they were burning the wrong kind of wood was one that I reported. They did come out and they told them they couldn't use it. They didn't shut the fire down. Apparently they had some wood that they had bought in the store, but they started carrying it back to their car, and as soon as the fire people left, they threw it over the edge of the crosswalk, and it's still laying on the beach in the dune. We've had fires that were butted right up against the dune because of the erosion to the beach, and I was told that, well, we don't really measure that 25 feet. That's just a guideline. If they have high tides, obviously they're going to have to move it up. Well, they start impacting the dune. We spend a lot of money and time trying to be good stewards of the beach. We clean up the junk that people throw there. We plant sea oats, and they come and trample them. And I do not think that we deserve that. One other point before I finish here. You talk about the 50-year thing. I don't know if you were also looking at a current map. I own the property on both sides of Beach Street, okay? And I know a lot of it's out in the water. I know it only goes to Bean Highway. I know that I have no right to bar people from sunbathing and fishing, and I would not want to. But I do think that I have a right to bar people from doing something that negatively impacts our lives. And there have been decisions that say that. I guess that's just about all I have on it.
So thank you very much.
And yeah, I am fairly impassioned about it because it's affecting my
you coming
life.
and saying it. At this time, the gentleman in the back, thank you.
Just
No, please, sorry, we have to get your name and state
Hi,
that.
my name's Alex Grissom. I live on Richard Street, which is near Magellan.
Yes, sir.
I am the one that had the fire there in November. It was completely permitted. It was probably 60 feet from the boardwalk. It was behind his house. I had my 7-year-old son, I had 2 of his 7-year-old classmates, I had my wife and 2 other mothers, and then my boss and his 3 young children there. 0 alcohol. At 5:37, the gentleman in question came strolling out the beach, shouting at me, "You can't have a fire!" We explained, we've got a permit. You can't have a permit. This is my beach, and I've got an agreement with the fire chief. You can't have it. I showed him on my phone. He's like, "I can't read that." So I dialed 911. I said, "If you don't go away from me, I'm calling the cops. You can call the police on me if you don't think I should be here, but you need to get away from me or I'm calling the law." And he finally strode off. So, I mean, I would just like to point out, I followed all the rules. It was a 3-foot fire. It was out by 10. My family was out of there by 10. I went back the next day, 0 sign that there was a fire there. So, I mean, it just seems ludicrous that he would make the statements that he would, that he called the police, they hung up on him, and that, because, I mean, it was completely legal. And then the beach was turned off after that, so I'm the only one that was there. And it just, I had no intention to get up here and say anything, but I just had to refute what he said.
Thank you, sir. Floor is still open for public comment.
May I respond
No,
to
sir.
that at all?
No, sir.
Why not? This is an open forum.
No, listen,
This should be.
it's.
This is Ron Dragutis, Satellite Beach resident, Mr. Mayor. And everyone can look at me here, and I'm going to look at you. Now, I can understand this gentleman's frustration. I can understand it, and maybe he lashed out at the individual back there who came up and talked about it. Let's see, I got pictures. Chief Pearson, do you have a call from Dale Abrams on 417, 417-16?
Excuse me, you direct,
I will look at you. 417-16, was there a call placed to Mr. Pearson's office?
I couldn't answer that question for you.
Why not?
That would be
All right.
logical, sir.
Why don't you ask him the question? Oh, I'm sorry, it's going to burn my 3 minutes. Here is a piece of firewood that has been thrown on a walkover. I've got multiple pictures, and they have no burn zone south of DeSoto, but yet we have pieces thrown down there. Now, shall we come out? We've got 2 choices here on the beach. We have a red bottle for fire extinguishment, or we have a green bottle for oxygen. And if people don't know the difference, the resilient community, we talk about carbon footprint. We are the greenest people on earth. We're planning all this and doing this. And we got fires on the beach that are delving into carbon. What are we doing? No, excuse me, Mr. Mayor, what are you and your staff and your committees doing? Us citizens have to breathe this? I came home last night from work, and I came home around, I believe it was 8:30, and here's this scent coming at me. And I'm not going to make a secret that I don't smoke. I smoke, but this is more deeper. It's worse than a cigarette. And we talk about secondhand smoking. We have a resolution tonight about lose the weight. Have we forgotten that smoking is an issue? And one of the biggest things in the world right now as far as healthcare costs is lung cancer? Smile at me. That is a true statement. Would you like me to come in front of your house? We don't even have a red alert. We had a red alert The last couple of weeks,
Mr. Jacutis, that was I'll give you a second to finish.
a red alert and winds are blowing. Do you not think we worry about ambers flying into the homes?
Thank you.
And health
I
issues.
appreciate it. Thank you. The floor is still open for public comment. Larry?
Larry Whitney, 499 Glenwood Avenue. I've been listening to both sides of this, and everybody has a right to enjoyment. The people, if it's legal, moral, and ethical, then we have an issue with fires, and if that's legal, that's fine. But that gentleman also has a right to some level of comfort, and he shouldn't have to put up with certain things. From everything I heard and from our fire chief talking about perhaps closing down some areas where you might potentially have bonfires, I was thinking, and this is coming from my background, I was thinking of punitive pricing techniques to limit, by people themselves will determine where they want to have a bonfire, simply because maybe this one is $15, but if you want to go over here, it's $100. And that becomes punitive pricing. It also creates incentive pricing to get people to burn fires where you want them to burn it and get it away from places where it's upsetting somebody else's enjoyment. That might be some ways, I think it's something that should be considered before anybody makes a decision to just close some or open some, that there are other avenues that can be explored to manage how and where and when there are fires. The other thing that I heard is that, not necessarily what was said, but what I heard was that people have fires, and then our community, not our community, but our city officials in our community and the people that work for these agencies have to go out and figure out that there's a problem somewhere, and then they have to go chase somebody to get them to clean it up or pay for it. That doesn't make any sense to me. It seems to me that it would make, from my perspective, again, it would make more sense that if you came to me and you wanted a permit, I would say, that's fine. Here's your permit. It's for this spot. It's $115, and if you clean it up, we'll check it in the morning. If you clean it up, you get $100 back. Otherwise, we keep your money and we'll clean it up. So that we're not chasing after people to do the right thing the right way. It should be a little self-supervising. So those are my thoughts.
Thank you very much. Anybody else?
Yes. Gail Abrams, I live on Ocean Street. I live in between Magellan and DeSoto. I concur with Mr. Lumsford. There are huge issues going on down in Magellan. I have documentation. I have pictures. Magellan is very dark, okay? It's an accident waiting to happen, and maybe I should bring out the word liability, and maybe that might get the attention, okay? There are issues with fires. Now, we used to have the north side and the south side of DeSoto where you could do fires. Well, guess what? In 2014, I complained. My neighbors next door to me in the big house, they complained, and then all of a sudden, it's just the north side, all right? So obviously, we did something to warrant you to change the locations. I have nothing against bonfires. I've had a few as a beach property owner, okay? My neighbors have had several bonfires, but the consensus on the street is we are stewards of the beach. We look after the beach because we live there and we see it every day. The people that are coming at Magellan, I'm not saying all of them, okay? There are some good people that come there and do things, and there are some people that do good things at DeSoto, okay? There's more of a problem down in Magellan. Now, are you waiting for something to happen before you act, or are you going to do something about it, okay? I have documentation. What Mr. Lumsford is saying is true. Every night, well, in the last few weeks, because everybody's out of school, there has been fires every night, and it's like, do I need to get a wind gauge out there? 10, 15 mile an hour winds. Hey, let a fire start at my house, okay? Maybe then we'll have some issues with liability from embers. You need to think about this because it is an issue. Do it at the parks. Charge more money. Look at what's going on in California. And the other thing I want to say is, we're supposed to be a health-conscious, sustainability community. Do your research on what the carbon footprint is with these fires. There's a lot of it out there, and it's in California there's a lot of issues, and they've banned a lot of this stuff because of air quality. And it affects your health. So you better think about this, okay? All of you. I mean, I'm not proposed to do away with them. Do it at Pelican, do it at Hightower, do it at Crotty. I don't know what's going on down in Shell Street, but obviously there's some issues down there, and hopefully you can get those resolved. But do it at the parks. That's what I would suggest.
Thank you. Public comment still open.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Daniel Williman at 460 Winchester. And I paid attention to the comments before me. I think that the gentleman that lives south of Magellan has a right to some enjoyment as well. But I also am a ham radio operator, and I listen to the scanner religiously. And I just want to say that Chief Dragon and our fine police chief here have done a wonderful job responding to problem fires and shutting them down. I have heard several calls where a fire has met compliance with the permitting process, with the rules, and they have left, and the people that were permitted continued to burn the fire. And as a matter of fact, I believe I recall the call in question where Mr. Lunsford said he was hung up on twice, but I don't hear too much on the scanner with reference to phone calls. But I do recall that, and he was markedly upset. I understand where he's coming from, but I also would like to say that one or two people should not be able to ruin thousands of people's enjoyment. The majority of the people who are permitted to burn fires, regardless of what beach they burn them on, they clean up after themselves. I also walk the beach with a metal detector, and I've rarely found tabs, cans, bottle caps, that kind of thing. And I have not actually yet found a single glass bottle or any dangerous trash left on the beach, and I walk a great distance. To touch on the cost of getting rid of the permitting process for so many sites, and I think it might be viable to work with just maybe one site, the problem sites, but that's $9,000 removed from the general fund, and we're not even talking about the fact that if we cut down the number of sites by more than half, that will also create a bottleneck which will further reduce income to the city. I would just like to close by saying I don't think that the thousands of people who successfully filed permits and enjoyed their time on the beach and cleaned up after themselves and didn't make a real impact, I don't think that they would agree that this is a reasonable expectation to shut down half of the permitted sites over issues that seem to be dealt with in a very straightforward and favorable manner. And one other thing before I go, I wanted to mention that when the fire chief, Chief Dragon, was talking about smoke and particulate matter, if you burn treated wood, yeah, you're going to have arsenic and all of that stuff. If they see you burning treated wood, they will shut you down. But if you burn seasoned kiln-dried wood, it is a more complete burn, and it is very, very low smoke. Just because you smell the aroma of burning wood does not mean that there is heavy, thick smoke and particulates emanating from that fire. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Very much. Comment still.
John Fergus, 135 Maple. I really didn't intend to speak, but I think there's several things. If folks don't like people having fires in front of them and want them shut down, if the city decides to do that, it's only fair that that be a blanket shutdown. If the public can't do it on a public beach, then neither should the people that live on there, because the wind doesn't blow directly back to your house. Your neighbors are going to share in the enjoyment. The comments about seasoned wood is good. This isn't really a health hazard. You can buy little aromatic things you just stick in your wall and you can smell, and it isn't harmful. This has been going on for years, and it's kind of part of the culture of the city, and it really would be a shame to be shutting it down. Just be careful in what you're doing and take it easy. And also, if you issue 1,000 permits a year, if you got 10 complaints, that's a 1% malcontent rate, or whatever you want to call it. And apparently we're not getting 10 complaints a year. And if they all come from one place, begin to wonder whether it's the conditions or whether it's the individuals involved. Thank you.
Thank you. Public comment?
Nick Sanzone, 200 Villa Del Mar. Thanks, everybody, and great comments from everybody. There's some really good points that are made about the fires. Regarding the fiscal aspect of it, the fact that it goes towards the fire department, that's great. I have a potential idea that I just came up with about how maybe we could increase that. So the wood that's being burned is being purchased at Publix, is that correct? The treated wood, is that probably where you can buy it at, or Walmart or somewhere like that? The wood that's too big is a problem because it's being left on the beach and it's not getting a complete burn. Is that correct as well? You're getting a more complete burn from the ADA compliant wood? Sorry, the ADA compliant wood, is that correct?
USDA.
USDA compliant wood. So would it be possible for the city to collect certain debris that could be then processed and sold at the fire department, that's approved by the fire department, that could generate revenue for the fire department, that would allow for better just maintenance of these fires as they're going on? I know that we have a lot of great trees, and especially they come down during storms. It'd be a shame if they weren't put to their complete usage. It'd be really great if they could be processed and approved by the city to be used by residents. As someone who's been a resident my whole life and been enjoying these fires, I'd hate to see it come to an end. Regarding the closures of some of those more residential areas, regarding that over the park areas, maybe certain areas would be better left alone, but maybe other areas could be opened up, like on Sunrise, there are no homes at Sunrise. That might be another possibility for some of the areas to be opened up where others might be closed. If there's any questions regarding how that would work, I'd be happy to talk about it later. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Public comment? Hearing no further?
Jazzy Hennings. I also didn't intend to speak tonight, but I live 1,000 feet from Hightower Beach, and I am a chronic asthmatic. I have suffered with asthma my entire life. I'm a pretty health-conscious person. I enjoy the outdoors, and I think you all know how much I love this city. My husband and I love bonfires. In fact, that's how we celebrated our boy's birthday last year, was a beach bonfire. So I'm basically just here to add a little positivity, because there was a lot of negativity tonight, and I think that people are entitled to how they feel, and that's great. But I would just like to say, on behalf of Satellite Beach and the citizens who obey the laws and the ordinances and respect the beaches, that I love it, and I think that, yeah, I mean, handle the things that need to be handled, but don't let a few, small, or not small instances, but a small number of instances ruin it for the whole city and for the people that enjoy them and the people that like smelling them, even when they're not attending on those evenings. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Please. Any further public comment on the agenda? Hearing none, I'm going to close it. Courtney, at this time, we've been going for an hour and 45. I've been asked for
Break for a minute?
council. I'm going to have a recess for 5 minutes, and then we'll be right back at this.
Thank you.
I'd like to reconvene this council meeting, approximately 8:50. We're back at council. Got it. Here we go. We're back at council. Said council comments. Courtney, you want to?
I just wanted to wrap up some of the staff points that we wanted to make. Clearly, as you can see, that there's definitely a relationship deterioration with Mr. Lunsford and the staff, and that's why we wanted to bring this to you. It's difficult to respond now. Out of exasperation, I did authorize to turn to stop bonfires at Magellan for a while because we were just didn't know what else to do, because it just got to the point where we're called a lot. There was some in speaking like about the liability issues, we had safety concerns, not because of the bonfire participants, but actually with Mr. Lunsford's reaction to them. So that's why we wanted to bring this issue to you. When we agreed to not permit bonfires at Magellan until we got this taken care of with you, we had a lot of problems with that, largely because when we react that way, we're not applying a policy, across the board, which is what we really need to do as government. So it presented a policy problem. When we talk about how do we solve that, when we talk about turning off the ability or limiting bonfires at parks only, we also are limiting the ability of condominium owners and specific property owners that don't live next to a beach access to have bonfires on the beach as well. When we get several season permit people.
We stopped the season permit issue, and that was done 2 years ago for two specific, so we don't do season permits anymore.
But we give a permit to property owners
Yes.
on the beach to have
yes.
their bonfire right behind their home. So if we're stopping bonfires at particular sites because of smoke issues, then we also have the problem of neighboring bonfire beach owners that don't live next to a beach access, because now they can't have their bonfires. Condominiums can't have their bonfires. If we're stopping it for smoke, then that leaves the question with Mr. Lunsford's adjacent neighbor can have a bonfire in their backyard. We allow fire pits, and I have one. My neighbors have one. So where does that end? So that's the public policy issue when you're talking about smoke. When we're talking about activities at the beach accesses, we need to make sure that we're distinguishing the activity of people going to the beach and bonfires, because drinking, consumption of alcohol, trash, all of those things can happen during the day by people who just go to the beach. In fact, that's where most of the trash comes from, is during the day, when people go to the beach. We have some of the most cleanest beaches in Brevard County. Keep Brevard Beautiful holds a beach cleanup at our parks in our city once a month. They hold it in Cocoa Beach twice a day. And Cocoa Beach does not allow bonfires. So what I'm trying to say is that a lot of the issues that people may have next to a beach access come from the fact that they live next to a beach access. In fact, when I first started working here, I did have a meeting with Mr. Lunsford where he actually asked me to close down that beach access. So what I'm trying to say is that we may have an issue with intolerance of living next to a public beach access that is being blamed on bonfires. There may be some issues with bonfires, But the fact remains that if we start limiting those bonfires for those reasons, we're impacting people's property rights, not only the people who live on the beach, but also people who don't live on the beach, because you're going to tell people from a smoke standpoint that they can't have a bonfire in their backyard.
Thank you. I'll make my comments real quick. I always look at problems in this city as a whole. If there are a major issue, we generally get more than a complaint or two. And if I look back and use statistics, and let's say they're right statistics, I have no reason not to believe them, we have an awful lot of bonfires. And we have negligent problems, almost zero. So for me, as a person sitting up here representing 10,500 plus people, if it was, if it was an issue, I'd have a lot of complaints on it. I'd have a lot of problems with it. Not saying that we couldn't do little better things and work on a better source of wood for them and so forth, but to me, it's not an issue. If it was an issue, I would have this audience filled with a lot of people. The police would be getting a hold of me, and I can assure you, my city manager would have me on the phone going, this is a major, major problem. I don't see it. So to make an overhaul change to me and say, cut it out, I don't say we're gaining anything. And yes, it's been here for a long time. If it was wrong, I guarantee you in this city, it would have been stopped long ago. So until somebody can prove to me as a sitting council person that this is detrimental to our community, it's okay the way it is. And again, I don't mind making those little changes if we have to monitor wood differently and so forth and bring that in. But to put a blanket and say we're not going to do it there and change this up, I just can't see it right now.
One of the pieces of data that was brought out by John Fergus was the 1%, and that seems to be the issue there, that there's only 1% that people are calling in with these particular complaints. I tend to agree with you, Mr. Mayor. I think to change the whole thing for 1% is probably not the best thing to do. But however, I would suggest this. I think that one of the things that you guys could potentially do is monitor that area, maybe a little bit more closely. Send Dave down there a little bit more often. See if something is going on. Go ahead, Chief, and then I'll follow up.
Just a point of clarification, in regards to bonfires south of Magellan for this season, less than 10, I want to say the exact number is that there were 7 permits total issued south of Magellan.
Okay.
We're not talking one every night.
Okay.
7. Last season, when we had the question, and Courtney said, let's turn this off until we can determine this property ownership, I do not believe that there was more than 10 or so permits issued in the preceding season south of Magellan. And when we say south of Magellan, we don't say go south of Magellan in front of Mr. Lunsford's house. They could also go 200 yards down and be in front of somebody else's house. Now, so it's just the south of Magellan, and like I said, this season, I know it's less than 10. I want to say the exact number is 7. And then last year, because it was an early issue, is that site was turned off till we get that, and there wasn't very many issued there. So totally, I don't think in 2 years, we were talking 20 fires total south of Magellan access.
Okay, and I get you. I get you. I'm just saying that maybe from a, and again, I'm not saying you change anything, okay? I'm good to go. I'm not saying change a thing. I'm just saying from a customer service community standpoint type of thing, maybe put a little bit more effort into making sure that it is what you guys say it is, and it's not, because clearly there's opposing positions on this that are diametrically, they're at the end of the spectrum. And that's, I think that part of what he may be saying is nobody's taking him seriously, and I just kind of like to see if it's, and I think you are, but I just think going a little bit the other way a little bit more, and again, tying up more of Dave's time down there. Thank you, Dave. But that's just my thought on it. Basically what I'm saying is what Courtney has said, good to go. What Frank has just said, good to go. I just want to see if you could try to mend some of this and maybe nail something down that we just could be missing just a little bit.
Absolutely.
A couple things have come to mind as we talk about that. First of all, and I've had comments always made, and you know that people live on a beach, you have a couple things that always go on. One, people say, the beach is for everybody. The beach is not for homeowners on the beach. The beach is for everybody. You also hear the argument, because when we do beach renourishment, you'll have a good portion of the residents say, absolutely not. If those people who live on the beach want beach renourishment, tell them to pay for itself, but I'm not paying for it, their comfort or protecting their property. When you say that, then you're not really saying it's open to everybody. You're concerned, you're taking the side that it just belongs to beach ownership. So I've seen both sides of that. I think you always have to be careful. I think we're great that we regulate it, because I think we said is if Brevard County says, they don't say you can or cannot, you could always take the opinion that we're just going to do away with our whole bonfire rule whatsoever, and whatever happens, happens, which means if 30 people want to go out there every night and have bonfires, there would be no law, no rule against that. And not to say that we would go for it or against it, it's just that you're not controlling it, which I think in our case, I like it better that we are regulating it, that we do have some teeth to it, say who can, and what they're going to do, and what's going to happen, and the size of the fire. Because again, if you don't regulate it, I hate to say this, but a 3-foot fire is not a bonfire.
I don't like the term bonfire either.
That's not really a bonfire. You know, bonfire, I'm thinking of the pyramid and the 40-foot circle, that's a bonfire. I mean, agreed, if we didn't regulate it, though, you could have a bonfire.
And we've had.
And again, where you could have something where, yes, couches, 30 pallets, whatever, you know, scarecrow on the post or.
Long time ago.
So, again, I think that's kind of why I say I like that we do regulate it, because that does keep some control over that. Yes, we may only have 1% that has a problem with it, but I like to sympathize with the 1% also, saying, as a citizen, he has rights just like everybody else has rights. I know majority may rule, but you'd still like to find a happy medium, a comfort spot for all our residents, because I think the mayor said it right. We are here to represent not the majority of the residents, but all the residents. That's really who we're trying to get to. So I kind of agree with Mark to the point that I like the system that we have, but I would like to see if we couldn't do something a little bit more, whether it's maybe not only just fire, but even police, kind of be one of those, it's a targeted area. You know, it's a problem area, just like you would do with speeding or vandalism or anything else where you would call that a targeted area that will do more enforcement to try to make sure that the person who is having an issue, I think that does two things. It either solves that problem, or it either adds legitimacy to, he does have a real complaint here and there is a real problem, or, hey, you know, we're spending 10 hours a day out there and there is no problem. You know, I mean, it tells us what the statistics are telling us from that kind of point. Then we really know. And I don't think that we get away from the whole he said, she said, I did this, we did that. Then we know for a fact this is what's really going on. So as I said, I like the system that we have in place. Again, the only thing I would say is I would hope that we could try to do something for the citizen in this case to try to help him out with his issue.
I have a suggestion, Councilman. What we could do is, I'll sit down with the police chief and we'll talk about how we can monitor that area. But we also, I talked to Alan about the possibility of maybe looking into some lighting for that area as well. So that might be another solution that could, you know, because I kept hearing that it's dark and it's you know, because of that, bad things happen, and maybe, you know, if we put some lighting out there, it might be a different story.
And I have another thought, just going along with it, just, again, something we could throw out there. I know that we have a couple places where they're trying to put the cameras to watch the waves and all that type of stuff. Is it possible that we could get either an interested party or something like that to put one of those cameras on the post out there? Even if you can't really see what's going on out there, but we all know, if there's a camera out there, and that in itself is usually a deterrent, No one wants to be on film doing all this. And that may just be a viable, idea. I'm not saying we have to do that, but that just may be a thought of another way we could help this situation. I think a camera out there, number one, it may be a deterrent. It may not have to take up staff's time down there so often. Where if someone's got a camera, it might be easier to see it that way. That's all, Mr. Mayor.
Well, okay, so two things. The light thing sounds like a good idea, but then is there going to be a problem with light pollution going into bedrooms? And we would definitely want to be careful about where we place that. Can you hear me? Okay. The point with the light would be a good idea. That is a very dark place, and Courtney may be able to attest, but so for growing up here, teenagers really do like to party on the beach, and we used to hang out at what's now called Pelican, which used to be Mark Realty, and I know Officer Pearson probably kicked us out of there several times. Teenagers can usually be up to no good. I know they're not at Mark Realty anymore. They're possibly hanging out at Magellan, because it sounds to me, just from what you're speaking, that it's definitely a bigger picture than just the fires. There's also the sound and the beer and and probably the party, and maybe kids are partying there. I did a ride along with the cops when I was, going through the campaigning issue, and one of the stops that we made was to pick up a bicycle from somebody that was intoxicated and lost it, and it was at your beach. So I could definitely see where that would be an issue. So I tend to lean kind of towards what Mark and Steve were saying, is that maybe we treat it like a Mark Realty situation, where we really just make the presence there, and possibly, that won't change the smoke, but maybe that'll change the noise and the litter, which I have no tolerance for, by the way. And that's just kind of my 2 cents on it. But I tend to lean towards that. I just can't see changing the entire policy for just the 1%. I would like to try to do the best that we can to make it easier for them, and maybe a little less stressful, though. Whatever we can. So,
and just to clarify, because it's the beach, we would have, the lighting has to be on the low, so because of the turtles,
Right.
Thank you.
Good point.
Yeah. I kind of like Larry's idea of the possible pricing if we're going to look at trying to deter things from different areas, but I also look at it from the perspective of, if you are doing that, then you're putting people in a position that you're charging residents in one area of the city more than another. So it has its pluses and its minuses. I also recognize the fact that I think the Lunsfords have some issues with the smoke that's going there. We issue 1,000 permits basically a season, you're saying, and we've had 7 to 10 permits on the south side of Magellan.
That's correct.
I would not be adverse to just saying, let's close off the south side of Magellan for 7 to 10 permits. Financially, it's not going to hit us. I look at this and I understand the dynamics of having people being able to enjoy the beach. Magellan is 2 blocks from Sunrise. We have fires available at Sunrise. It's 2 blocks south of DeSoto. We have people being able to have fires at DeSoto. I don't think we'd be cutting anybody off if we cut off the south side of Magellan and just used the north side of Magellan. So I wouldn't have a problem if we did that, and then that aspect of it goes away, and we still have whatever issues that we may have there with who's using the beach as the beach access and drinking and partying in there, but the smoke aspect of their concerns goes away.
I've got to ask this question, Chief, to you. You have great records. Obviously, we got a copy of them that Courtney sent us the other day, so you keep track of all this. In your professional opinion, is there more issues at Magellan than any other place along the beach? Do you see any trends that are setting up there that
We would just have to qualify it, because the answer to the question is yes, because it's a darker beach that, just like the gentleman said, where you can see people coming and going and have the ability to do something. Is it different than any other darker beach in the city? Absolutely not. But yes, are the darker beaches different than Pelican Park, where, you know, every car that pulls in, nobody's ditching their beers or whatever, because, you know, 1 out of every 10 might be a police car. So the answer to the question is yes, but all of the darker beaches are all similar, not in Satellite Beach, but on all the beaches. That's, if you're going to looking for nefarious things to do, you're going to pick up a beach that's darker where you can see the cops coming from, you know, 100 feet away.
I'm not against closing, picking out a beach and saying, close it over another beach. I'm not. I'm more for, what can we do to make Magellan a safer beach? End of the story. Try that before we ever go to say, no, target that beach, because then when the next person comes and goes, hey, you close that, I don't want them here either. So I am not against, I'm against closing, but I am for making sure Magellan is as safe as any place around, and the activities at Magellan, from trash, noise, and that sort, doesn't affect any homeowner, Mr. Lunsford, or anybody else who lives on a access to the beach.
I absolutely certainly have no problem with that. I will just say, for fear of setting up unreasonable expectations, every single person who wears a Satellite Beach police uniform knows where the problems are and knows where the people go, and they're in and out of there as often as they possibly can when they're not working. I can promise you that. We even have the volunteers going through there. So I could say, certainly, I could put out a directive in 5 minutes, and I could have every patrol car going through there in 15 minutes. But they're pretty much doing that anyway, because that's what these folks do for a living, is they go look for people that aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing and get them to stop and modify behavior. That's what we do. So I will absolutely, certainly do that, but I just don't want anyone to have an unreasonable expectation that Magellan will be significantly different and better than any of the other darker beach accesses, because it's just short of posting someone there. It's really,
That's fair. Courtney, can you, Alan, whoever, kind of look at the lighting situation and give us a report there and see where we can make that better, if it's feasible.
Mayor, can I say one more thing? It goes along with what the chief said is, while I agree you may be going through there all the time, you know, a common phrase for me is, you know, somebody's perception is somebody's reality. And you may see that as your officers are going through there every 15 minutes, every half hour, every hour to whatever's end. But if Mr. Lunsford is not seeing you guys come through there that often, his impression is going to be that it's not happening. Now, granted, I'm not expecting him to sit on the porch all night, you know, with a tally and paper trying to count how many times you're coming through there. But I think that kind of goes back to what I was saying is, not only do we want people doing the right thing to get the idea that you're always there, you need to go somewhere else because it's a pain, because every time they turn around, a police officer is showing up. I would like the impression for Mr. Lunsford to get the same idea, is that every time he walks outside and seems to turn around, always seems to be a cop sitting out there. Again, I think that kind of gives everybody the feeling that, number one, you are doing all that you can to rectify that perception of what's going on Magellan, while still trying to help the neighbor out, make him feel a little bit better that he knows that you're out there doing that all the time. And again,
if I could break in real quick, I think it'd be better if I could sit down with the chief to come up with a plan, because if we make the expectation that Mr. Lunsford is happy by seeing as many cop cars go through there as possible, then we will not have any cop cars anywhere else in the city.
And I agree.
And I'm just being honest, like, we need to make, what we need to make the goal is to resolve the actual problem, not see people out there all the time. Do you know what I'm saying? Because that's an impossible directive to give. We just don't have the resources.
And I say that from the point, because I can give you some perfect examples, and I can see it right at the end of Cassia. And I've seen this happen time and time again. There's a group that's hanging out there, because I'm down there on the beach, and I'm walking back and forth, and I see them. And as soon as the cop car comes over there, or the ATV comes down, they scatter, because they see him coming. I see him coming. I see him coming all the way from Pelican all the way up to Cassia. plenty of time for people to scatter and get out of the way. Sometimes I think it's better that, you know, and obviously I'm not here to tell you how to do your job, but I guarantee you that you park down a street and an officer walks up that street, he will catch a lot more people doing things they should not be doing.
Right, they do that.
Right, and that's why I say sometimes
That's why there may be not people seeing them do what they're doing, because they're
Amen.
not driving there.
And I agree with that, because I have seen that too, where an officer has walked up there at Cassian, because he parked over by ABC, and nobody saw him coming. And there was some panic in some people's eyes that were there. And as they say, things go flying over the boardwalks and so on, because they never saw them coming. Again, I'm not here to tell you how to do your job in any way whatsoever, Chief. Like I said, I am full thing. What we really want is the issue or the problem that's perceived at Magellan to go away.
So
Whatever that takes to do that.
Excuse me 1 second. Dominic asked the floor.
One of the things that was mentioned that I'm sorry I didn't mention it earlier, but there was a fire and a bus was parked there and running for 4 hours in a residential neighborhood. I don't think we should be allowing that. If we're issuing a permit and a bus is coming in with that many people and the bus is sitting next to my house running for 4 hours, I wouldn't want that either. So if that's a situation that's occurred there or could occur in any one of these areas where we allow permitting, we shouldn't have commercial vehicles parked in a residential neighborhood.
True.
And we should be able to get those things out of there immediately. So, you know.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have any recollection of that incident, but I don't see today's staff allowing that.
Okay, I just wanted to, I mean, I think if that's happening anywhere in the city, that needs to stop immediately.
I'm going to let Mark talk, and then I want to wrap.
That's what I was going to do, is I was going to say, I think what I'm hearing, Mr. Mayor, is that Courtney wants to work with her team to come back with a plan, set up a plan, that sort of thing, to move forward with this. And what I'm seeing is that we're good with what we've got here in front of us. That's all I wanted to say, Mr. Mayor.
I concur.
Okay. Consensus on that? Everybody fine?
I think that's a great idea.
Okay. Courtney, you got direction there. Chief, staff, thank you very, very much.
Those are awesome, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to agenda number 8, discuss, take action on ordinance 1132. Jim.
Ordinance number 1132, an ordinance of the City of Satellite Beach, Brevard County, Florida, amending the future land use element of the 1998 Comprehensive Plan as amended May 4, 2016, based on the city's updated data and analysis of the Comprehensive Plan, revising and updating existing goals, objectives, and policies in accordance with the mandate set forth in Chapter 163 Florida statutes, authorizing transmittal of these amendments to the East Central Florida Regional Planning Council, State Land Planning Agency, and other applicable agencies for review and comment as required by Florida statutes, providing a conflicts clause and severability clause, providing an effective date. It's the first reading of ordinance number 1132.
Make a motion to approve ordinance number 1132 on first reading.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Montanaro, second by Councilman Breimer.
No, I can do that.
Vice Mayor Osmer. Thank you. Okay, Mr. LaRue, anything to add to this, please?
I hesitate to speak when everything's already done, so I would just say that this does clean up the action when you convert residential to commercial. It gives you an inventory of how much commercial you have, and you won't go below that threshold. You'll be in better shape than you are now with the existing situation. If you have every time you convert, you have to have the commercial added to it at the same time. This will, by doing this, we give you a threshold that you won't have to worry about.
Great, thank you very much. Council comments before I open it up for public?
Nope.
At this time, agenda item 8 is open for public comment. Hearing none, back to council. Further council? No. Lenore?
Councilman Breimer?
Yes.
Councilwoman Gibson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Osmer?
Yes.
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes. Motion passes. Sorry to make you wait so long.
No.
Thank you very much.
I'm glad we didn't talk about beaches, though. We're good.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
This will come back to you again, and we'll do the adoption on the second reading.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Okay, discuss, take action, we're moving on to agenda item 9, discuss, take action on increased funding for fiscal year 2016-17 budget for a new environmental program coordinator position. Courtney?
Thank you, Mayor. Staff is requesting that you approve the new environmental program coordinator position that we're presenting and authorize the use of revenue from the recycling trust fund and the use of general fund reserves to fund this position. We have been pretty innovative and forward-thinking in our area of our environmental sustainability. And because of the increased workload regarding those issues, as well as the workload that's coming down from our lagoon projects, we're asking for this position to help us basically keep up with that. So this position will be designed to be in the Public Works Department, and it is written as such to be not only an office position, but also a field position. So we envision, that individual to be actually working in the field if they need to be. Like when we discuss community gardens, we see not only the planning of the community garden, but also building the community garden as part of that workload. So this is a kind of an odd position in that way. It's not entirely administrative, but also designed to work out in the field as well. The position salary range is $33,547. We are hiring at the minimum for this position, and we are estimating approximately $10,000 in estimated benefit impacts, and we are estimating a startup cost of $1,500 for purchase of a laptop and software.
Courtney, question. You said it was split revenue from the recycling trust fund and the general fund. Is there a ratio?
The recycling trust fund would only be probably about $5,000 to $10,000. The rest would be coming from general fund reserves.
Okay, 5 to 10.
Is that ongoing?
That would be an ongoing, yeah.
Okay. Questions from council concerning agenda item 9? I have one. This position too, as we talked, is going to help with grants where need be in those fields.
Yeah, well, we are asking, we moved a lot of the grant work over to Public Works, to the administrative coordinator there. So she is actually managing all the grants. Most departments will write their own grants. If this position, if we have grant needs in that realm, then yes, they would write their own grants.
I just know there's going to be probably with this sales tax coming in and other things with the lagoon, we are sure going to have an opportunity here for grants, correct?
Yes, in terms of stormwater, however, most of those grants are written by our engineer because of the complication of it. So, so yes and no, it depends on the grant itself. But a lot of our stormwater projects also have other grants attached to it. For example, recreation, property acquisition, stuff like that. That's different.
Great. Okay, any further comment? If I hear none, I'll open up for public.
No.
This time, open up for public comment, agenda item 9. Hearing none, back to council. Have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the addition of the new environmental program coordinator position and authorize use of the revenue from the recycling trust fund and the use of general fund reserves.
Okay, I have a motion by Vice Mayor Osmer, second by Councilwoman Gibson. Further discussion? Hearing none? Jim, you have anything? Okay, thank you. Just want to make sure. Lenore?
Councilman Breimer?
Yes.
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Councilwoman Gibson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Osmer?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes, motion passes. And position to be filled by certain date, you have anything like that in mind?
ASAP.
Okay. Thank you. Good luck for whomever. Thank you. Okay, moving on to agenda item 10. Discuss, take action on a proposal for digital and social media services with Space Coast Daily News.
Thank you, Mayor. As part of the initiative to increase our communication efforts, we're recommending to work with Space Coast Daily News, which is an online newspaper. They have a social media presence of approximately 115,000 followers. The newspaper basically does kind of like content articles for local governments, and then we'll post it to social media and get it out there. They did this for our DeSoto Fields project, and it worked very well. We kept hearing a lot of rumors with that project. So they approached us, and we asked them to help us with that, and that actually worked quite well. We were able to also share that on our end on social media. That example is actually kind of a lesser version of what we're talking here, because we're actually talking about an article. However, we do want to work with them to do this type of marketing effort. I think their reach is a lot more broad than what we have, and I think that's what we need to focus on that as well, not just our citizen residents, but also our countywide look as people look into the city. We don't have a contract. It's just a bi-month service, so we do need a budget, and we realize that our mid-year is coming up, so we really only need $1,185 until the mid-year budget amendment, and then we can come back to you with the results of what we've done so far and budget that normally like we would with our mid-year budget approvals.
Quick question. Did you get a phone call today from a person wanting to set up an appointment concerning something like this, too?
No.
Okay. The reason I asked, I did, and I directed it to you.
Okay.
So, for the service, right now, you want us just to approve the service, or do you want us to approve the dollar amount? The $6,500 would take up the rest of the year, correct? Basically, it's about $8,000 a year, but for the remaining...
For the remainder of the year, it would be $6,500, but what we're really asking is just to get us up to the mid-year budget amendment, and we'll come back to you with the results of what we've done so far.
The proposal would be...
$1,185.
$1,185 for social media.
Right.
Until we get the mid-year budget.
Correct.
I talked to Courtney this morning about how I think this will help us in communicating, getting the right message out there, getting the correct message out there, because once the wrong message is out there, wrong messages become true, in most cases, faster than the correct news becomes truth. So I think this is a great alternative, and I'll make a motion to approve the $1,185 to enter into a proposal with Space Coast Daily News.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Montanaro, second by Vice Mayor Osmer.
Yes.
Okay. Further discussion from council.
And if I'm right, so it's not really a contract, so we could actually end this at any time.
Yeah, we're paying for
Decide it
service.
doesn't work out for us, we just say,
Right.
thanks, but we're done.
Monthly service.
And Terry with Space Coast Daily News is right there.
I can
Who
tell
lives
you,
here in Satellite.
I agree with this, because the social media during the hurricane, when you put that small blurb out, boy, did that diffuse a lot of people, and a whole different impact on it compared to the last one. People were just so nervous about getting back to their house. So that's the way of the world today, and whether we're social media butterflies, I am not. It is definitely the way it is.
We
So,
know that.
Yes.
And there's some dinosaurs up there.
Yeah,
We
there
freely
is, but-
admit it.
Okay, at this time, open up for public comment, agenda item 10.
Hi, Terry Theodoro, 535 Cal Street, Satellite Beach, Florida, Space Coast Daily News. I'm happy to say that we have 115,000 loyal friends and fans on Facebook right now to get your message to. We also would like to introduce you to Space Coast Daily TV, and would like to have the Satellite Beach TV show featured on spacecoastdaily.com, our daily digital newspaper, which is reaching in excess of 1.5 million page viewers per month. And that would be $8.95 per month. Over a 12-month period. So if that's something you want to think about, or that's what you're going to come back with in the mid-budget there, we'd love to have you and love to work with you. Love the city. Thank you all for everything that you do, and so glad we decided to move here. We bought our house sight unseen over the internet from Utah, and are very, very happy that we did. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
We are too.
Further comments? Hearing none, bring it back to council. Any council comments?
Two things. One, I am one of those 115,000 followers. Had it for quite some time. But I'd like to echo what Dominic said. It's something else that goes along with all this stuff, as you're all hearing, is fake news is now becoming the new thing. So going along with, the wrong message getting out there, or in these terms of fake news going out there and getting legs and going to, I think this helps us from the point that you have it more from a reputable news source as opposed to, or just Facebook. You know what I mean? Because a lot of fake news actually comes out of Facebook type stuff. So I think this is an added safeguard for us. It gives legitimacy to our message, as again, so that it doesn't look more as either, you said, the bad story or a fake news story. So I think this is a better move to go that way.
Plus, it's in line with one of our goals in communicating with
Absolutely.
our residents.
Check that off the list.
Great, thank you. Further? Hearing none, Lenore?
Councilman Breimer?
Yes.
Councilwoman Gibson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Osmer?
Yes.
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes, motion passes. Thank you, staff. Moving on to agenda item 11, city council, agenda item 11, appointments, liaisons to boards. So, to make this a little easier, for instance, I've had a request, you gotta give her something, from Councilwoman Gibson, who would like the Sustainability Board. I'm happy with giving that up there.
Thank you.
The other one that I am going to would like to put in the pension board, I think, Dominic, you sit on the state board there.
Makes sense.
So again, these are just some of my ideas, you guys.
I can't do the library board. You guys gave me that.
Okay, well, that's fine. We'll make that as a change. But you work with the pension plan with the League of Cities, so I know you like that.
Yep.
Okay. The Space Coast League of Cities, it's always been the mayor and the city manager.
Yeah.
So
Don't mess with
that's what we did there. So, look at the boards. South Beach Coalition was Councilwoman Gott, 4 o'clock on Monday. I could pick that one up, if that's...
That's the second Monday, and
Yep.
it's also the League of Cities meeting day. So that's why I kind of couldn't do it, because I have to be.
Well, I have to be there,
early.
too.
You got to
Thank
be
you.
there earlier,
Yep,
so
it is the
But
you got to be there.
we scheduled it for that reason at 4.
Yeah, but if the meeting is down somewhere south and the meeting gets over at 5 o'clock, he's got to be at a board meeting.
At 5:45.
Okay, it's going to be tough sometimes.
All right.
but-
Those meetings
No,
don't last an
Let me
hour.
just back up. We used to have this was, for Space Coast League of Cities, you had mayor and I was an alternate, and then then the other one said, the mayor and Courtney.
That's because I had to be.
That's because she was
I
already
on
a
the board.
voting member because of the position that
Right.
she had with the city managers.
I just say this from the point that if you kept me as an alternate, that may help alleviate where all of us wouldn't have to be at the Space Coast League of Cities at the same time. In other words, if you and Courtney decided to go to the Space Coast, go to the South Beaches Coalition or whatever, I could go to the Space Coast League of Cities and make that as the voting person, just to give you that option.
Well, Courtney is the voting person already. So, but what I could do is South Beach Coalition, if you would want that. Can you get there by 4 from work?
Where is that?
It depends.
It's different, it's
It
in
goes
a
in
different
different
place.
cities?
Yeah, it's in the Atlantic, I think, right
And
now.
I think next year, we're going to have the voting seat for that. So you would be, the beaches seat alternates.
Right, I knew
like
that.
every X number of years, and we have the voting membership, I think, next year.
Okay. So, the South Beach Coalition, if you want to get involved there too, because that would
Right.
help. Can you make that?
Yeah, I should be able to make that. Mondays are good days for me.
Okay. Not blowing up anything that day?
Mondays are always quiet. It's been a rough weekend, everybody's quiet on Monday.
Okay. Beautification Board on Friday? Anybody? You there?
I usually catch those anyways.
Okay.
Unless somebody has a dire urge to be there. I just take that usually because I'm off that every other Friday, so it usually falls on my Fridays that I can make it.
Board of Adjustments?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine with the two I've got. Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay. Okay, Brimer and Brimer Recreation Board. Okay,
until we know what we're doing with
Code.
planning and zoning and.
Right.
Code enforcement's gonna go away, because we're going
Right,
to a
right. So code
magistrate.
enforcement's going to a magistrate, so we're out there. Comprehensive, planning and zoning.
That's gonna-
I'll do that.
Well, planning and zoning and comprehensive plan is gonna get joined,
So,
right?
okay,
So,
comprehensive plan, I'll do that.
you wanna do that one?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, Mindy?
I mean,
What's left is the CRA,
I can do the CRA.
library,
Let Mindy get one.
Sampson's Island.
Okay.
That's what's left.
You wanna do the CRA?
That'd be a good one.
Sure. That'd be a good
Yeah.
one for you.
I don't want to take Sampson Island, because wasn't that
That's
kind of your
fine.
baby too, anyway?
I love that one.
All right, Oz
You
got
have to pry that
Sampson.
one out of my fingers.
Okay, Osmer has
I
three
can't do the
now.
library.
Hold on. I've got 1, 2. Mark's got 2.
I got one.
Okay. Can you do the library?
I can't. I have a conflict. I've not made a meeting in 2 years because I have a meeting on that night. You guys gave me that board when
Okay,
I
that's
wasn't
fine.
here,
No
and
problem.
I can't make them.
All right, no problem.
Should have been here.
Okay, the comprehensive plan board, we're going away with that, right?
Right.
Okay,
Yeah,
So,
okay, hold on. Library, board, let me see where I'm at. P and Z, or whatever that will become. And
so
I have,
everybody has 2 except Osmer has 3 and Dominic has 1. So,
I can take one of Steve's if you want me to. If he wants to give one up, if he doesn't, I'm okay with one.
Steve, what do you want?
Well, I mean, the only other one that I have a hard time making is the beautification board, because that's that Friday at 9.
I can do
If
that.
you can do that one,
Right.
I'm okay with that.
Dom,
You can do the library, maybe?
can you be the library?
What's that one? That's every other Monday, right?
Yeah, bi-monthly.
Yeah.
Bi-monthly.
Or quarterly?
Yeah.
Bi-monthly?
Yeah, they only have like 3 or 4 meetings a year.
All right, Oz.
Yeah, I mean, I can make that. 6
All right.
o'clock that's okay by me.
Okay, so let me read the list I have. Beautification Board, Dominic. Dr. Breimer, Board of Adjustments. Community Redevelopment, Mindy. Library, Steve?
Yep.
Okay. Trust for Pension, Dominic. I'm P and Z. Mark's Rec. Sampson Island Working Board.
Yep.
Steve, I know you like that.
Mm-hmm.
Space Coast League of City, Courtney and myself. Space Coast Coalition, Steve.
Yep.
And Sustainability, Mindy. Sound okay with everybody?
Works for me.
Do we need a motion to accept or anything?
Do you want a motion?
Consensus?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Administrative.
We're all
Okay.
good.
Good.
All right, thank you. Discuss, take action on agenda item 12 on gold settings. At our desk, we have revised edition for gold for 2017.
I just tried to combine the ones that, the only council member that turned one in, and then everybody else that spoke to me. So Dominic gets the gold star for that. And just kind of things I knew that you all cared about. So for financial, we put use new construction revenue gains to reduce the city's millage rate while preserving city service levels. Execute a successful opening for the city's employee health clinic. Continue partnering with other municipalities on projects that reduce costs. Health and wellness is a new category, but it seems to be dominating our year here. So create a citywide wellness program, including both residents and employees. Obviously, we're doing that. Continue to work towards an AARP, age-friendly communities designation. Execute a survey of our residents consistent with the AARP model survey to get a baseline of our residents regarding important city issues for aging residents.
How old are you going to be in AARP?
You're there.
You're there.
I'm not 55.
No, 50.
Oh.
Yeah, you get your card in the mail whether you like it or
They're
not.
already sending me stuff. So.
Gracious me.
Infrastructure and facilities, we added address current and long-term stormwater solutions for the city, continue working with Patrick Air Force Base on any initiatives that benefit our residents, and continue the city's facility renewal program. In legislative, establish working relationships with newly elected state legislators and county commissioners, continue working with the league on municipal legislative priorities. Communications, we just continue basically what we're doing now. But the business environment, we changed this a little to increase the city's participation in the Cocoa Beach Chamber of Commerce and expand city announcement opportunities for new businesses, including grand opening events. Is that adequate?
Yeah, but that's good. But where did you and I stand on designing that building next year?
On the,
Pelican Farm.
yeah, we have that actually programmed for 18-19,
Okay.
the design.
Design in 18-19, not the building in 18-19?
Yeah, it's three years away.
Still.
Yeah. The next design is the Civic Center.
Okay. That is good. Okay.
We probably have a wedding scheduled for the next 2
And
years.
then the design after that is the landscaping for A1A. After that is Jackson Avenue. And then the design for...
Okay. Consensus? Sold?
Yes.
Good. Courtney, thank you. 13 is agenda for our next meeting on the 18th. Please take a look at it. If there's anything else that needs to be added or you would like, please either contact myself or Courtney on that. Okay. One thing, Lenore, I know you heard us talking before, and I don't know if everybody agrees to this. We got a lot of events going on in the city that is in this booklet here. Can we have all of them put on the calendar in the back, so when we turn this book in, we can pull that page out, and then we have all the events there? Is that a possibility?
It's a really good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can give it to you.
We're actually creating that for the website, so we just put it.
Yeah, I just, that way we turn this in, we've got it right there. That way we try not to
And then when we
miss it.
schedule things on the dais, that's helpful. Yeah, it's a good idea.
I just always thought it was nice because you bring stuff up in your report, like you're telling us for Ocean Reef Days and stuff like that, that aren't on this calendar, that I agree would be nice if all those things that you bring up and the movies and all that stuff, we had them on one, fire department, open house, all those things. I think it would just,
Beach cleanups, all that stuff.
it'd be very convenient to have it on, or like the mayor said, we could tear out that one page, it would have all those things on one calendar to take with us.
Great. Okay, so council agenda items, take a look if you need to, please get with staff and Courtney. Moving on to agenda item 14, appointments to boards. So hopefully I got this right here. You can appoint Beautification, Board of Adjustments, Code Enforcement Board, we are not. P&Z, we are not. Recreation Board, we can, and Sustainability, we can. Correct?
Correct.
Okay.
I would allow Lenore to give you an update on her conversations with some of the applicants real quick, if you would like.
Please.
Okay, first and foremost, today I was informed that Amy Meeman from the Beautification Board, she had to resign due to medical reasons.
She's on the Beautification Board?
Yeah, so that adjusts where her primary position is to be added as a vacancy when you're selecting your processes for the Sustainability Board.
That opens up a primary then for Beautification.
So we have one primary?
One alternate and one primary that's vacant currently right now.
And that takes out her from being on the Sustainability Board as well, correct? Yes.
As you are aware, Mr. Peter Sheffick indicated that he would be willing to wait for both the planning and zoning and the comprehensive plan to be merged.
Right.
So just keep that in mind for future.
Yes.
Kathy Karshuk, you go to page 2. Although she's serving on Beautification Board, she's willing to serve on sustainability. Jazzy Hennings has also indicated that she would be willing to serve on sustainability and relinquish her Sampson's Island Working Board alternate position. We've already talked about Peter Rogers is serving on the Pelham Working Board. He is also willing to adjust to the Sustainability Board. And again, Matt White, who is serving on the Recreation Board, is willing to serve on the Sustainability Board.
Who's the last one?
Matt White, the gentleman who was in the end of the canal, the oceanographer. Okay. So I have, let's talk sustainability for 1 second here. So Mindy, as being on council, opens up a position, there's another position open. There could be a third position open, and I spoke to the gentleman, John Fergus. John does a billion things for us anyway, and he says, I'm going to be working on all this stuff anyway. This gives us the ability to bring another person into the mix. Okay, I talked to him tonight. He said whenever we wanted to do it, whatever we felt, he was in. Because we've got a lot of good people here, and, you know, to me it's hard on some of them. I can pick two easily now, but that gives us the ability if we want to. Just throwing that out there for the discussion. My suggestion is work on a sustainability board first, on a vote on the people, that way we can cross off those and see where else we can fill. I'd like to fill as many of these positions tonight as we possibly can.
Well, I look at Pete and Matt as two people that probably we should slot in there, and if there's a third position open,
Can we do them, I think, individually, just in a way?
All
Because I like Matt, and I like Jazzy on it for two.
Where's Jazzy?
You gotta go to the old
Okay.
thing.
Yeah, I know, that's what I'm looking
Right.
at.
That's two there. Amy's out. And if we, and again, I don't know how to handle John's thing tonight, if we want to just wait and do that
I
the
would
next
wait.
time. Okay.
I would wait only because there was a concern about having, because a lot of the members are very new, and John has got that long
Knowledge,
history and the
yeah.
knowledge, and so him being there just for at least a month would be helpful to them, you know?
Okay.
I mean, I'm leaning more towards Matt and Jazzy as well, to be honest, just because I was there when they both interviewed and
Right, me too.
then
Want that as a
potentially.
motion?
Yeah, but again, I'm just.
motion, Go ahead.
Do I-
Yeah.
I make a motion to appoint Jazzy Hennings and Matthew White to the Sustainability Board.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Gibson, second by Councilman Breimer. Discussion. Hearing none, Lenore?
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Osmer?
Yes.
Councilman Breimer?
Yes.
Councilwoman Gibson?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
We had the same problem with
Okay.
Steve, though,
State
remember?
council member.
That almost seems harder though, Councilman.
Hold on 1 second, I'm going to get rid of
member.
some of this stuff. so that we can
Member
get
Gibson,
back so we can
member.
keep all these names.
For everybody.
That is all, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Could be on a couple others, so we have, okay, so of old, just looking at this, as old, we have Peter, and he's picked sustainability, then he's picked the beautification board as his second alternative.
Who?
Okay,
Which one?
Wait, which one you looking at?
Peter.
Okay.
Peter is already serving on the Sampson's Island Working Board.
Yeah.
Okay,
So I wouldn't reappoint that.
Right, okay,
Until a sustainability position comes up.
right, okay, I'm just trying to get all these in order. Is Kay on any of the boards?
Yes, she is currently an alternate member on the beautification board.
Okay.
Should,
And if that's a sustainability one, so,
well, I wonder if she would want to become a primary and then become, since she's already on there.
Yeah,
go
if
into
she
the
is a
con-
primary, I think she would that's a great idea.
And then have two
Unless
alternates
there's-
available.
Is there
If she's
another
an al-
longer-serving alternate that you know of, Lenore?
No, she's the only alternate.
She's the alternate.
Okay, that'd be great, yeah.
So we move her into the primary seat.
and that's on what board again?
Beautification?
Beautification.
Okay,
Does that make two alternates now available?
so that makes two alternates.
Right.
Okay. So of the new ones that we have
Who did we
left,
interview today?
we have Kathleen,
Yeah.
Michael, but
Kathleen wanted to go into, Kathleen also picked the rec board.
yeah, and I'm looking at Michael, we want to get him in the rec board too. What did
Well,
Kathleen?
no, Michael actually,
You want a
we could
beautification.
put him into Board of Adjustment. Michael and Richard could go into the Board of Adjustment. There's two alternates that are needed there, and they both checked the Board of Adjustment.
Okay.
Michael and
The
Richard.
Board of
both-
Adjustment desperately needs alternates.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's do that. Let's take care of that one
All right,
first.
I'll make a motion to appoint Michael and Richard to the Board of Adjustments.
Second. I have a motion by
As
Councilman
alternate- as
Montanaro,
alternate
second by
members.
Councilman Breimer.
Yes.
Okay. Any discussion? There are none, Lenore?
I apologize, who's the primary and?
No,
There's
there's
two
two
alternates.
Both alternates.
They're
Yes,
both
they are.
alternates.
Okay.
Councilwoman Gibson,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Osmer,
Yes.
Councilman Breimer,
Yes.
Councilman Montanaro,
Yes.
Mayor Patino.
Yes. And I just want to say, make sure we don't forget Peter when it comes down to, because his
Yeah,
background is really good.
And then I'll make a motion to appoint Kathleen Cleary to the Recreation Board as a primary member.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilman Montanaro, second by Vice Mayor Osmer. Discussion? Hearing none? Lenore?
Councilman Breimer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Gibson,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Osmer,
Yes.
Councilman Montanaro,
Yes.
Mayor Patino.
Yes. So, if I'm right, we've got everybody, we got Peter still out there. We are two short as alternates on the beautification. The code enforcement, we're not handling right now.
Right.
P and Z,
We don't want to appoint anybody to that yet.
we're not appointing anybody there.
He went to,
And the recreation board, we
still
have
have one alternate.
one primary and one alternate.
We also now have Sampson Island because Jazzy just vacated.
So Samson, okay.
So that'll come to you
Didn't we
next
just
month.
appoint somebody as the primary member in Recreation? We just did.
Yeah, we did
just
with
appointed-
Matt, so there's another vacancy there.
No, Matt, yeah, no, we didn't
Where's
put
Matt
anybody
go?
tonight. We took Matt off a board, Matt went on to the sustainability. This
Didn't
guy.
we put Kathleen on
We just put
recreation?
Kathleen, we just voted to put her as the Recreation Board primary member.
Was
Yes, we
Kathleen
did.
Clary.
Correct.
Yeah, we just did that.
Okay,
Right?
all right.
Wait, I'll just say, at your next meeting, you'll have a Sampson's Island Working Board opening and another primary recreation board opening.
Correct.
So
Because
we'll
we
fill
took
that
Mike-
next meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right, that's what I meant.
Okay?
All
Okay,
right,
so we have reappointments too.
Yes.
All right. I'll make a motion to reappoint Judith Kramer to the Beautification Board as a primary member, term ending 1/20. Bill Spiegelhalter, the Firefighters and Police General Employees Pension Board, as a primary member, ending term 1/20. Carol Robichuk to the Library Board, reappoint as a primary member, term ending 1/20. Sharon Reynolds Mixon to the Library Board as primary member, term ending 1/20. Lucia Watson to the Library Board as a primary member, term ending 2/7/20. Jim Strayer to the Recreation Board as an alternate member, term ending 2/20. Sandy Carnival to the Sampson's Island Working Board as a primary member, term ending 1/20. And Gregory Smith to the Sampson's Island Working Board as a primary member, term ending 1/9/20.
Second.
second by Vice Mayor Osmer. Question real quick. Have we contacted all these people? And they- Thank you. Okay, just want to make sure for the record. Any further discussion? No. Lenore?
Councilman Breimer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Gibson,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Osmer,
Yes.
Councilman Montanaro,
Yes.
Mayor Patino.
Yes, motion passes. I think that takes care of.
I have a question.
Okay, we got the-
Courtney, if we're looking at combining these boards, the people that are on these boards currently, if we're going to have one board, are we going to notify them that they need to be reappointed to a board and interview again? Are we going to notify them? Are we going to wait until after we do the transition stuff and
What we would be doing is notifying them that we're going to be presenting an ordinance dissolving those two boards and creating one.
Okay.
And that if they're interested in serving on the new one, to resubmit their application, and we'll go through the interview process, just like with anyone who's interested on serving that board. That's the cleanest way to do it. We're trying to see if we could create like 9 members and have them attrition off, but it seems like it'd be best just to start over.
So you're going to bring to us this new board, and we're going to look at how many members should be on it?
That's
How
correct.
many alternates?
Right.
Okay.
We're going to set it up anew like we set up a board,
That's
right?
correct. Mhm.
And then we interview and place from that interview.
That's correct.
Okay. Sounds good. We're going to have more openings. I don't know if it's time for a Beachcaster article or just as council members, we need to probably for the different board. I know Jody Gotti, it was like she asked for the recreation, and now we have that open, so we probably need to talk to her to come in. If you know other people that want to serve, because there are openings. Okay, moving on to agenda item 15, approval of minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the city council special meeting minutes, December 7th, 2016, and the city council regular meeting minutes, December 7th, 2016, as submitted.
Second.
I have a motion by Vice Mayor Osmer, second by Councilman Montanaro. Approval of minutes. Discussion? Hearing none. Lenore?
Councilman Weimer?
Yes.
Councilman Gibson?
Yes.
Councilman Montanaro? Mayor Oliver?
Yes.
Mayor Campbell?
Yes, motion passes. Any further business before the board?
Mayor, I would just like to say, Lenore, great job with all the new names, new positions, new everything. I know it had to be thoroughly confusing tonight at times, but good job, first one for the year.
Round over.
Like, what do you want from her? What do you
Come
want her to do?
Way to go, Boone.
Any further business?
Yeah, I was wondering if you and Courtney could get together and clean up this mess underneath your desk here. You got animals going down.
Meeting's adjourned.